All right. What is up, traders? Whether you are new or returning, welcome to the channel where we take a no BS price is king approach. We have a lot to talk about today, so let's get started. We got a few points to make real quick. Inflation tomorrow, CPI data will come out tomorrow morning at 8:30 in the morning. Unfortunately, we got to look at the dollar. We got to look at growth versus value. We'll take a look at Tesla, Nvidia, oil, of course, Aussie yen, VIX, S&P, and Bitcoin. But first, let's talk about Bitcoin real quick, just basically what it's done this week. As you can see on the monitor, you have this week's price action, all of it. Weekly support setting at $65,771. That's literally where Bitcoin bounced, as you can see on the bottom left of your screen. It has been making higher lows and higher highs since that price, and today is no different. Over here today, you had a very strong open during the Asian session, nice expansion, taking out yesterday's high, and then it pulled back a little bit. It traded sideways going into the London session. During the London session here, you set in these lows right here, did the same thing. So basically for the last 2 days, you've just been trending higher. You're back up to resistance, which is the resistance level that caused a swing high failure pattern last week at the weekly range highs. So if you're looking for bullish setups today, if you're anticipating a breakout, then obviously you'd be looking for intraday support. The very near term, where price just bounced from, actually, support is setting at $70,385. That's roughly about the 382 retracement of today's range. I think a lot is going to hedge on what the dollar does with Bitcoin moving on. I could be wrong about that. I just think that if we're going to see a macro dollar move, then we could see a macro Bitcoin move. We have not had a macro dollar move since the very beginning of 2025. We had 2 or 3 months of downside pressure on the dollar last year at the very first quarter, and then Q2, Q3, and Q4 of last year were all sideways. And so far in Q1 2026, which this is the last month in Q1 2026, the dollar is still stuck in that range. So I think we need a macro move on the dollar to get things moving. Back once again on Bitcoin, retracing last week's range. We're in last week's range, so we are an inside week. It's been choppy since last week. We'll see what it does today. All right, going over here quickly to the dollar. So basically, this is a long-term level of resistance here. I'm going to pull the chart out so you can see it on the daily time frame. This is Q1 that I spoke of, 2025. You had a nice down move, and you've been stuck in this descending channel since then. As you can see up here, the dollar is into that resistance. The main resistance level for this range will be August 2025's highs. We have liquidated August 2025's highs, but we have not been able to close a single day candle above that price. So until you do, that price is the objective breakout level for the dollar. The trend line resistance and the 200-day EMAs is currently what is holding as resistance now. I honestly believe that we're seeing resistance hold because of a nasty NFP print that we got on Friday. All right, so here we go. Friday's price action, very muted, very small, which is odd given the nasty print we got on the NFP. So it was yesterday, though. Gapped up, liquidated last week's high, found resistance, pulled back, took out Friday's low. As of right now today, you've taken out basically Thursdays and Wednesdays of last week's lows as well. And that's kind of the area that's acting as near-term support here. The chart is what we have to trade, not our bias. My macro bias for the dollar, as long as we don't see any massive inflation or anything like that in the future, would be lower. As long as the Fed stays in a rate cutting regime, then my macro dollar bias would be lower. The chart is lower as far as technical structure goes. I have the 21 and the 200-day EMAs on the chart. As you can see, the 21 is under the 200. If I put the 50 and the 100 on there as well, it would be the same scenario. You have a bearish structure on the moving averages. The problem with moving averages is when price is chopping inside of a macro multi-month range, they are not very helpful. They can help you with small moves and macro moves, but as far as being in the middle of the range, they're not going to be very helpful. They're going to get you chopped up a lot. But the 200 is holding firmly as resistance. So if I have to trade the chart is bearish, then obviously, unless the dollar is breaking out above the 200 and trending, I would have a more near-term bearish bias on the dollar moving forward. All right, so short setups today on the dollar would be euro dollar, or pound dollar, right? You'd be looking to potentially get long either one of those two assets. It doesn't really seem like we would want to do that, being how both those assets are extremely weak, but that is what we have so far. Nvidia, let me pull up my notes real quick. Nvidia bounced off the March open objective support down here. It's the monthly open. We traded into there. Let me go intraday here so you can see we traded into there perfectly pre-market yesterday and bounced pretty heavily. So I was in a short last week. On Friday, we took a short, and that short has been stopped out. So this is why I am a strong proponent of taking profits if you get the move in your direction. We took the short here. We got the move in our direction. You take profits because if price comes back against you, you want to be getting out with a win, not a loss. So that's what's happening there. I'm no longer in the trade on Nvidia. You still have bearish structure here on the intraday charts with the moving averages. On the daily, you can see it is still bullish. The 200 is below the 21. You are chopping inside of a multi-month range. The November low is the objective level you must break down below before you can call a breakdown. All right, so until that happens, you have to treat this as a range-bound asset. The next level that I'm looking for potential shorts on Nvidia, because the near-term structure is bearish and because we're closing daily candles under the 21, when that is no longer happening, my near-term bias will shift. But as long as we're trading under February's open, my near-term bias would be bearish. Not looking for a short here today, although it could work. Yesterday was absolutely a bullish engulfing candle at support, which is usually a pretty good signal for long trades. If you're looking for upside continuation, the top side of that range would be February's open. I could take a short again if we liquidate last week's high in reverse, but my favorite place to look for shorts would be a retest and failure at February's open. As in a perfect world, if you can't trade above that price right there, then it would seem as if though the bears have near-term control of order flow. Now, with all that being said, something that we must keep in the back of our minds, the tech sector, being the XLK, is the most shorted it has been in the last 10 years. You are at levels of short side open interest. This is very important because if the open interest, all of those orders setting down below November's low or with anticipations of a breakdown below November's low, as long as price stays above that, it could be relatively, as long as price stays above that, you could get a short squeeze. So you have to be aware. You can't be super bearish here while you're in a range. It does look weak. It is a topping formation. If you look at it long term, I guess I would call that some sort of a sideways head and shoulders or whatever. But I mean, it typically, it does look like it wants to roll over, but that's the thing. It has not rolled over. It literally has been refusing to roll over. So be careful. Yeah, this thing could get going really quickly to the upside if price starts squeezing those record levels of shorts. All right. Next, growth versus value. This is important to keep an eye on. Let me pull it up real fast. It's just a ratio. It shows us rotations, right? It shows us where how investors are positioning themselves. And we were witnessing a massive rotation from growth to value, which is why, in my opinion, the S&P has not broken out to the upside yet. If this rotation goes back from value to growth, meaning this trends up, then you could see the breakout happen on the S&P 500. So we are at a pretty pivotal place here with a lot of these things. This is a weekly chart, and as you can see here, last week was a strong move off of support. This is not a tradable asset. It's just a ratio between the growth ETF versus the value ETF. All right, so it's not tradable, but it does show us where investors are positioning. This could be a dead cat bounce, but it could also very well be a support bounce, as you are still above the weekly 200. So with that being said, if this continues to trend up, I would be very cautious about looking for near-term shorts. All right, very important here. As long as you're trading above last week's high, you are trending up. You are trending up. It's objective. It's an objective statement that carries a lot of weight. So if you are trending up, do you really want to be short growth? So yeah, that's what we got. All right, very, very, very useful stuff here. Let's now go back to Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar is looked at as a risk off asset. Well, at least the Japanese yen is. The Japanese yen is extremely weak. We do think the BOJ will intervene at some point. However, the trend is literally very strong and bullish. So stepping in front of that has been causing a lot of havoc on retail short traders' portfolios. This thing is literally trending up. This screams of risk on, not risk off. You are above like massive levels of resistance up here. Obviously, this trend is so strong. Very, very crazy stuff here that we're seeing on Aussie yen. And just look at these weekly candles, just up. Literally one red candle in all of this stuff. This is because people keep trying to short it. Once that last short is done, then it might go into a period of pullback or sideways price action, price discovery, building in a range. Until that happens, I think looking for shorts on this is futile. We were watching this week's high coming into this week because we do have a war happening in the Middle East between Israel, the US, and Iran. But that war is kind of winding down as Iran literally has no way of defending itself anymore. So now, with an open airspace for the U.S. and Israel, they're going to be able to pick targets at will and bomb them at will. So there really isn't a whole lot left for that to happen. Eventually, the Strait of Hormuz will open back up. Oil prices will probably go back lower, but until that starts to happen, you got to be very careful. A lot of people were anticipating risk off this week because of the war and all that. But as you can see here, this, as of right now, it is not a risk off scenario. So be very, very careful, please. Volumes look bullish here. You just closed the 4-hour candle above last week's high. This candle could be a trap. All right, it could be a trap. It could start to weaken today. But if you're trading above the current day high, I would not be trying to execute short entries on Aussie yen. All right. Okay. We had an explosion in volatility. The VIX is elevated. Yesterday, the VIX was at 30. For Bitcoin to rally, when the VIX is at 30, it almost seems impossible to me. Usually, when the VIX is elevated like this, risk assets are getting hammered. Well, Bitcoin has already been hammered. So Bitcoin's been in price discovery since we set the low back in February. the local low back in February. So until you take that low out, pressure on Bitcoin is to the upside. The risk on Bitcoin is to the upside. I don't care how bearish you are on Bitcoin. It doesn't matter. What matters is where the probability is set right now. And you can use however many different metrics that you want, however many models you want. Most of the probability models right now suggest higher prices on Bitcoin, at least on the near term, because you got so oversold. You almost would expect a bounce, right? A dead cat bounce or some kind of relief rally to liquidate the massive short interest that has built up over the last 4 weeks on Bitcoin. So the risk is to the upside. VIX exploded here. I have all the gaps on the VIX chart so you can see basically what's been transpiring here on the VIX for all of 2025, and at the beginning of 2026 here, we got down close to the low side gap and it literally refused to close it. It traded back to the upside, and then we came all the way back up to the $35 gap and literally rolled over there. And now you have pulled back. You have pulled back underneath these highs here. So it does feel like maybe the VIX is going to cool off here. If the war winds down, I believe that could be what we see. I think that we'll see what Bitcoin does, but I think right now we should probably not be looking for bullish entries necessarily today, because we could be setting the weekly high on Bitcoin. I understand that, but as long as we're above the weekly VWAP and now the March VWAP again, it's very difficult for me to look at this with any kind of bearish sentiment. So over here on the daily time frame, this is what I was talking about. This is your weekly range high liquidation point. Obviously, this daily high is a little bit higher, but if you look at this on the weekly time frame, that daily high is somewhere inside of this candle's range. So if you're looking at swing highs in terms of liquidations, you have liquidated everything that you need to liquidate except for this swing high here. So this would be the next upside target if the bears are unable to take out lows. Last 3 weeks, you've been making higher lows. Bitcoin did break out above that liquidation level and it did fail. And then it spent the rest of the week pulling back, almost got to the point to where it closed negatively, but it didn't. It closed positively. And then at the very beginning of the week, it built in support here and has been rallying ever since. So it does seem like the bulls have pressure here. All right. I don't know if we're going to get any kind of upside continuation or anything, but like I said, as long as we're trading above 68.97, I think we would have to be looking for support tests and holds. You can look for shorts if you want. If you're a bear and you think it's going to roll over, you could be right. Nobody knows what price is ever going to do. So yeah, who am I to tell you not to get short? If you want to get short, get short. The level that I would watch if I had a bearish bias would be today's high. So that's probably where I'd be looking to put the short on, and I probably wouldn't be doing that if it was trading above that. So we'll see what it does today. I took a long this morning on Bitcoin, a very tiny scalp here. All I was looking at was the prior 4-hour swing low, which was right here. Obviously being into the 4-hour resistance, being into the week swing high resistance and all that. I really don't like taking a long position, but there really has only been one pullback big enough for anybody to get long in, and that was right here. And I missed that trade because it happened while I was going to bed. So we did get a time change in the US. So now daily candles will open on the Bitcoin chart at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So at least we're back into what I consider to be normalcy. I think the 8 o'clock candle just makes more sense as you are opening 4-hour candles on even times. Your 4-hour opens will now be 8, 12, and 4, 8, 12, 4, 8, 12, 4. So yeah, I mean, finding bullish entries at swing lows is what you should probably be doing if price is trending to the upside. If it fails here, then we will reconsider looking for shorts, as I will take that as a 200 EMA retest and failure. All right, so if it can't break out above here today and then it falls back under this price, then I would probably be more keen on scalping downside targets on Bitcoin instead of upside targets on Bitcoin. But anyways, right here is where I tried to get long this morning before the bell. This trade actually happened about an hour and a half ago. As you can see here, as it pulled down into it on the 30-minute time frame, I alerted it in the Discord, and then I got long, and my stop is just setting right here. So if Bitcoin does roll over and come back down here to $70,314, that long position will be stopped out. I also took a long position at the same time on the euro dollar. And yeah, so that's where we're sitting. In terms of silver, if the dollar weakens, it's going to be very difficult for me to want to look for silver shorts. I do honestly believe that silver is expensive here at these prices. I do think that, a deeper pullback could be coming. It's just on the daily time frame, this asset is bullish. As you can see here, it was trading into the daily 21 exponential moving average. This is gold. This was trading into the daily 21 exponential moving average, and that's what held as support on gold. Whereas on silver, it was February's open. So let me actually pull up the real XAG chart here. Give me 1 second. This is not the right one. Maybe it's Oanda that I have it on. Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, there it is. Perfect. Okay, as you can see, it traded into the February open here. There is your bell. Traded into the February open here on Monday. Sorry, yeah, that's going to be Tuesday's range. Good. So on Tuesday, it traded into February's open for the first time, and then it could not break it. It just could not break it. It could not break down. Whenever that happens, you have to wonder why, right? Why is it not breaking down? Because obviously people are accumulating it or whatever. Maybe the short side trade just got too overdone here and price had to go up, right? It does feel like you would get a larger pullback. You had a blow off top style drop on it earlier this year. And then last week, we put in a bearish engulfing weekly candle and we closed under the low. This is typically a really good signal, especially coming after a blow off top, coming at resistance. Like all of the above are good checks for potential sell side entries. I made a lot of money on silver last week as it did give us a down move. This week, that position got stopped out. It got stopped out yesterday as it broke out right here. So I did initially get short up here. I took off that profit. And then when it traded back up again, I looked for another short side entry. So I added to the position and that brought my cost basis down. So because of that new entry here and the inability to trend lower, I had to close it when it broke out through here. So I am kind of looking for new downside entries because I think, it is a little bit overdone here at $90. $90 is a big figure number. So I'm going to use $90 to mitigate risk. If silver's trading above it, what is that? If silver's trading above it, Alt H, then I will not be looking for shorts on silver because I think the risk is just, we don't know what central banks are doing with this thing yet, right? We don't know if they're still accumulating or what's going on. So you have a very near-term bullish cross here on the 4-hour, and then going back out to the daily time frame. Yesterday was a bullish engulfing at support, and it was a close back above the 21 exponential. So the only way I can be short silver today is if this 4-hour candle closes under resistance here. That's it. So I'll probably wait to see what happens with this candle. If it could break down and close under the lows of this candle, I might then look for a pullback and then get short, as I think trying to get short right here, right now is risky. It's risky. And I'll tell you why. Because right now the dollar is rolling over. So as long as you have dollar weakness and clear, obvious support holding on silver, it's a very risky short. All right. If you want to try to short it, be my guest. It's a risky trade here. You could mitigate the risk by the day's high. It's right here at around $90. So, I mean, you have a setup here. Your point of control looks good for volume. It does mean that a lot of people are interested at the very least to trade right here. Will they win? I don't know. Last week was a losing day for me in terms of P&L. I took a couple scalps yesterday and they were losers. So far this week, have no cushion to kind of protect against entries. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay with having a couple losses on the week. I just don't want them to be big losses. So what I'll do here this morning, since we've gotten the bell, is as long as silver is trading above resistance, I'm going to leave it be. And when I say trading above, I simply mean candles are closing above it, right? All right, let's see what happens here. Let's go look at our deltas. Our deltas here on the XAG contract are bullish. The deltas on the XAG USDT are bearish. Well, not anymore. They're not. Now they're flipped back to positive here. So, yeah, it's just a risky trade. All right, and finally, let's discuss oil, as I'm sure some people are very much trading that. Well, here, let me just pull up this TBC chart. Okay. So, oil rejected the high month close. Excuse me. Trying to clear the frogs out. Oil rejected the high month close. It took out 3-year highs. Super volatile. Over the weekend, it liquidated crypto shorts. What I mean by that is a lot of crypto companies or a lot of exchanges are now tokenizing regular like US futures contracts and some stocks, right? Which is awesome. I love it. It's technology. It's a good thing. So that is going to cause more volatility. So essentially what you had is crude oil's historic price spike was driven by a sharp escalation in the Iran-Israel conflict, triggered nearly $40 million in liquidations on hyperliquids tokenized oil contracts, with about 40 million. It's 36.9 million coming from short positions. The surge pushed hyperliquid CLUSDC contract as high as 114.77 and helped and helped make oil one of the platform's largest single asset liquidation events outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Even as broader crypto markets suffered a risk-off sell-off, it was trading at levels not seen since Russia's invasion of Ukraine back in 2022, and the single-day percentage gain is on track to be the largest in the history of the oil market. Very volatile. Use small risk if you're trading it. Obviously, nobody wants to see $100 oil, especially if you drive a big truck. It's brutal, right? Massive move higher here. And if we go out to the monthly time frame, you can see right there is your high month close. That's where price kind of rejected. It isn't the highest monthly close. It's just the near term high month close. The highest monthly close ever is over here back in '08. So yeah, this massive breakout and spike here just caused a short squeeze. And you know, you can see a trending move take place after you squeeze all those shorts. And that's essentially what started to take place. A chain reaction where you just started sparking more and more liquidations. And that caused a little bit of an issue. Okay, so Bitcoin is breaking down here. So maybe it is setting the weekly high today, which is a risk for sure. Let's go back over here to silver real quick. I do want to pull it back up over on the XAGO and so we did get a close back here. So is Bitcoin selling off because risk markets are selling off? Well, not really seeing risk markets sell off here. So the VIX is back to up on the day, 2461. S&P is a doji right now. Nvidia taking out yesterday's high, so it is possible that it rolls over here. Yesterday's high is right there. I definitely want to keep that price on watch more than the pre-market level. The pre-market level is a big level, but nobody sees that if they're not looking at, if they're only looking at daily and higher time frames. They don't see that swing high, which is why I want to keep it on watch. All right, so my position on Bitcoin got stopped out clearly, as that was a big drop lower there. Let's see if the volumes are changing around here. This morning they were bullish. Yeah, that's heavy volume to the downside. You're into earlier support. Still not down here to the level that I would be interested in being a buyer again. And this would be like pretty much the final level that I'd be interested in buying. This is a nasty rejection here at the 200. So now that's going to, depending on how this closes, obviously, is going to give you a 4-hour supply candle to keep an eye on. All right. So technically speaking, if Bitcoin is going to break down, see that volume spike that happened there? If Bitcoin is going to break down, you shouldn't trade above this. You're still bullishly structured. You're still above the VWAP. Be careful. Yeah, good morning. Good morning. What's going on? All right, so yeah, we'll see what happens today. The euro long is still open, so dollar is not breaking back to the upside just yet. It is a risk if the dollar does break to the upside here, as you have liquidated all these daily swing lows. You haven't gotten down here yet. So if the downside continuation happens, this would be my downside target. However, because you're up above the daily 21, you are into resistance. But if it fails to continue below this point, you could make the argument that the bulls are buying the dip. Dollar bulls are buying the dip. Dollar bulls are anticipating a breakout here. Because if it does break out, it could be a large move to the upside. The dollar bull is trying to hold support here at the New York Open. Which means I could put on the short again on silver. It would be difficult to mitigate risk as you have a lower daily high for now, but right here is the day high. So as long as silver is trading above 89.03, it could be heading back to 90. I don't love the deltas here on volume either to take that short, but price is kind of rejecting 4-hour res. So let me see. Yeah, it made a higher high. It put in a bearish 4-hour engulfing here and then made a higher high. This close wasn't a weak close. I like to see the weak close as well, right? This could just be an emotional move to get Bitcoin shorts off sides, as that's what it did yesterday. We were looking for Bitcoin to roll over yesterday, and it did not. Where were we watching it for? I think it was right in here. Or was it down here? It was lower on the range. Oh, no, it was right here. Right here. So we got a short in up here somewhere as the volume started to build up, and then clearly we got wicked out as it broke out and pushed higher. It's the midpoint of the daily range. Why does this continuously keep switching back to 40? Why? Oh, this would be value area low. At this point, you're undervalued. A lot of bearish momentum. I normally don't like to buy into a lot of bearish momentum like that. But if it is liquidating a lot of near-term, just liquidating a lot of near-term long trades, you could get a volatile spike lower like that. It's what does it do moving on? That will be interesting. And where is the daily 21? So the daily 21 at yesterday's close was 68,616. Way down there. Jesus. All right. Like I said, dollar is not breaking down or breaking out. It's kind of just chopping sideways here. Still chopping. Looks good for more downside, as you have broken down. Can the bears keep it going? If they can, I do not want to short silver, and I do want to be long Bitcoin. I'm trading the charts, though. Obviously, Bitcoin is weak long term. And last week was a pretty good show on if the sellers were going to come back at higher prices or not. And they did. Last week, they rejected these prices. They just didn't get much continuation. You got a couple days, and this week would be looked at as a dead cat bounce. Back into resistance here. You're still bearishly structured on the near-term charts. Oh, if the dollar does break out, then I would probably believe these sellers. So you kind of have a unique position here. You could look for short entries at 73.65 if you do have that bearish bias. And for the bulls this morning, the daily midpoint would be, the level you would want to see hold. Lines up pretty good with the value area low. And although I don't like this much momentum going into a support level, it could definitely hold. We saw something similar to that yesterday as well. Many times we've seen that. Just look at that breakdown there. That was a momentous move, and then it just basically held. Boom. Oh, if it can hold, I'll put that long position back open. And silver is rejecting 4-hour res on the near term here. I got a limit sell out there. I just haven't gotten filled at it. And I really don't like the idea of selling it, though. Because yesterday it broke out, and I generally want to give the respect to the bulls when they get a fresh breakout like that to see if they can keep it going, which they did early. So yesterday, here's your close. The Asian session open, you got a little bit of sideways, but then it broke back to the upside. So near-term trend is up. But the sellers are here, as you can see clearly. with the point of control. The problem is Delta is not confirming that the sellers are here. The Delta says the opposite. And then also on the week's platform, the longs are getting paid on silver right now. The longs are getting paid on silver. Pretty brutal move there in 10 minutes. Boom, boom. And Euro does look like it's trying to go lower. I didn't have any real good resistance levels on Euro, so I was basically just looking at the dollar for the positioning. It was basically the same thing that Bitcoin did this morning. 4-hour structure looks way different because with Forex, you've got those different closes. 1, 5, and 9 are the closes in Forex. 159, 159. And this is what it looks like over there. So breakout to the upside, close above resistance. But as of right now, no continuation as you've been just chopping up here. Looking for demand to hold. It did hold. We got a 30-minute, an hour bounce out of it. But didn't really go nowhere. So I don't like that it's made a fresh lower low here. If it comes back down into this stuff down in here, I'll probably be forced closed. I don't like buying at resistance. I just took the chance, right? And that sucks. Because it didn't hold. A lot more aggressive the bears are today. And, you know, we used to look for weekly high or lows to be put in. What happened to the music? Are you kidding me? A freaking commercial pop-up stopped the music? Dude, what am I paying you for? I hate commercials so bad. Especially if you're already paying for premium services. You shouldn't get served ads. But anyways, yeah, aggressive sell side move here. Let's see what happens. I would not have been a buyer down there. Not with that much momentum. I do not like choppy markets either. When we're chopping back and forth below, above and below the 21 like this, it's a very annoying, difficult to take trades. And I'll tell you why. Because there's nothing here. There's not an objective level for me to watch right here. There is here and there is here, but not where it's, you know, where it's trading right now inside the weekly range. So when that's happening, there's just not a good setup. That means you have to go down to smaller time frames and then look for those setups. So you're getting a retest of the 4-hour supply zone here. The sellers would be looking for this as their retest, so to speak, if they're anticipating lower prices. There is resistance here, being the 200 4-hour, and up here. Just no higher time frame levels for me to look to put risk on at. We'll see what happens with it. Hopefully it can hold, but yeah, dollar is firming up a bit. So either something, you guys aren't very talkative today in the chat, huh? That's all right. Watch the price. So will dollar roll over here, or will it head back up? As it is in a range, unfortunately. We've said that a lot about the dollar lately because it's always in a range. It very seldom trends. When it does, it's like 1 or 2 days, and then it's chop slop for the rest of the week. It's been like that for literal months. People just don't know what to do in this macro climate, or it's not clear. We did get an upside continuation move on oil. On silver. Right? As you did break out above the 200, and then you got 1, 2, 3 continuation candles. So if 4-hour resistance can hold, I can put a short on here in anticipation of it dropping back down under the 200 here, as you still have a bearish cross. If it breaks out above that 4-hour resistance, you're going to have a bullish cross again. But if it can just stay under resistance here, I would be anticipating this as some sort of a trap, right? And price to roll back over and then start to trend. And then maybe if you get a larger trending move out of silver, we do take out these lows. But this price has to hold for that to happen, as it's already trending. This is why I don't love the silver short. If it would have just broke out maybe once and then started to build in a range, I would like that a little bit better. You know what I mean? Yeah, this looks like it's a trending move. This looks like a pullback. It looks like it wants to go higher to me, so I don't love the short. And even Bitcoin looks good for the long here. This doesn't look good for the short. Now, it will if you retrace all of today's range. But that's what you would have to do in order to make me think that it is going lower. Right here, look at this 12-hour chart. This looks like a pullback, not a breakdown. So we'll see what it does. Obviously, your bears are going to be jumping on it right here, or at least some of them will. I would love for it to come back down here and hold. Then I could mitigate risk again with this swing. I don't want to chase it up to here. Oil is up again today, but it's finding resistance at daily res, which is your 2024 swing high. I do still have a very small short position open on Bitcoin, but it's from one that we took last week up here. So, or no, it was right here. Yeah, right here. So this wick almost took that small short out. I've already taken profits on the trade. Obviously, when it broke down, I took profits. My stop. So it just didn't get all the way up to my entry. So my entry is just right here on this wick. So when it closed the 4-hour back under this level, as it pushed up to retest it here, that's when I put the short on. You'd be looking for something similar if you think, this is going to be the week high. I don't know that it is. This was a very strong move off of the weekly support. So it feels like we would get some continuation off that. However, there is a lot of resistance up here. And that's what we're dealing with here. A lot of resistance. Nvidia is rejecting yesterday's high. What does it look like on the intraday? It's bullish on the intraday. I just mean the near-term structure. Your 21's above your 200. You're above the VWAP. Yeah. Makes it a difficult sell, but this is yesterday's high. So if they fail to get above that, then you're not, at least you can say objectively it's not continuing. My problem, the dollar is so pretty to break down. It looks so good on the 4 hour for a breakdown. You're still trading inside the previous 4 hour candles range. You opened. They're trying to hold support here, but they don't have a lot of momentum either. Like when Bitcoin traded into support, it had a lot of momentum. The dollar doesn't have that yet. And as long as it's below the prior 4 hour swing high, you can say they do not have it. So the dollar could break down. Hence the reason for my bullish positioning this morning. If they get it above this high, then the target would be high of day, which is here. The downside target's here, upside target's here. Very sideways. It can go up or down from here. It's a difficult trade. I took it as down just because of yesterday's momentum. Good mornings, VRT making fresh all-time highs. VRT, huh? Not familiar with that. Yeah. Is this... I have no idea what it is. It absolutely is. So Bitcoin failed to retest support. This is support. And the sellers have came down lower also. Your POC was here. Now it has dropped down, so that could be very suggestive. So you're getting ready to make a fresh low here. There's your fresh low. All right. Damn it. If silver breaks down, I'm going to be so upset because I missed it. Come on. Test resistance again. Stream is stuck on your... Oh, so sorry, dude. Thank you for telling me that. My bad. Son of a gun. I am terrible at that. Okay, so I'm looking for a 618 retest and hold. That's where 4 hour res is on silver. But does this hold on Bitcoin? I'll try one more long here on Bitcoin. And then I'll be done with it if I get stopped out again. I'm curious as to why that jumped down so hard like that. And I'm not looking to position myself on silver the same way that I'm trying to position on Bitcoin. It's more or less just trying to anticipate what they're going to do given what the dollar does. But if euro dollar gets stopped out, then that means dollar is pumping. So if dollar is pumping, that could put pressure on Bitcoin. Bitcoin and the dollar have not been correlated on the near term, so you can ignore it if you don't have to look at the dollar chart or anything like that. It's not going to be super helpful. It's just an old habit that I should probably break. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, I'm not seeing any confirmation, like heavy selling pressure here. I would like to see that. I do like the POC, but only if silver stays under 89.21. If it's trading above 89.21, I have to get out of it or not even put on a trade because it could be going to the day high. Euro dollar hasn't been stopped out yet. That's kind of important. VIX did go up to yesterday's close, and it has backed off. I think Nvidia is probably going to break out. If I had to put money on it, I would definitely not love the idea of the short here just because of what it's done here. Big, heavy selling pressure into support, and then the sellers just disappeared. Right? They just disappeared. Look how aggressive they were coming into this area. Same thing over here. They were super aggressive until it got here. Then they backed off, and the bulls took it. So the sellers have backed off again here, and the bulls yesterday took it. So it feels like it wants to go up. It could reject here. It is resistance. It was last week. But it would be, in my opinion, a very dangerous short because the bulls showed you yesterday they do have momentum. When I'm short a growth asset or an asset that usually trends up, I want to do it when it's weak, not when it's strong. When it is very weak, I like shorting a weak trending asset. Those are the shorts that pay the long run. The long run, right? And that's what I'm looking for, generally speaking. I would love to be able to get in a position and hold that position for a few days, not just one day. But it is resistance, so I can't buy it here either. I can't buy into resistance, and I can't short into support. There just really isn't a trade here on NVIDIA. I'm just more or less watching it to see what it does at the February's open or at last week's high. Because if it could just peek through last week's high and then fail, and then show me that there's heavy selling pressure there, I could jump on a short there, but the favored position would be a rejection here. Same thing, bearish engulfing weekly candle last week. We closed below, for the second week in a row, below the 21 exponential on NVIDIA. So at least for the last 3 weeks or the last 2 weeks, it feels like the bears have it. So the bulls have got a lot to prove here. Why is last week's high here? That is clearly not last week's high. Last week's high is up to March Sorry, February is open. So what am I looking at here? What is wrong? Look at where last week's high is. There is no Friday, and then this is last week's high. So when I go out to the weekly, okay, I see it now. Got it. Perfect. It looked like that wick went all the way to February's high. It was because I had that box there. Okay, good. Perfect. Never mind. Not looking at anything that isn't there. All's good. All right. So silver still kind of just chopping sideways. And Bitcoin, fresh lows. They're fresh near-term lows from the London session. So here is your London open right here at 2 a.m. So it just simply looks like London bought it. They bought the market as it trended higher. So New York is literally just stopping out London longs. If it continues to go, I've missed the short. I have a small short on, like I said, but it's not making any money. Even if this thing gets down, it would have to break below the weekly low for that trade to start making money again. Way down here. It's just a small piece. It's kind of irrelevant to even have it open at this point. And then this is that prior 4-hour swing low. So it's nothing really, as this 8-hour candle dominates the daily range. So if you look at it in terms of like an inefficiency, could be a long. A lot of bearish momentum, though, and I don't love that. Also, Euro is kind of melting a little bit as Bitcoin is melting a little bit. So it kind of feels like there is dollar strength. But silver is not melting. Dollar is not strong. I wouldn't even look at the dollar as being strong because right here is your day open. The dollar is still down on the day. So for me to say, okay, dollar is firming up, it needs to get above this. Then I can say the dollar is firming up. Yeah, Bitcoin looks bad on the 4-hour, but it is what it is. 618 retest of the daily range. It's not looking good. Damn you, Bitcoin. We will look at inflows and stuff like that here in just a momento. I'm gonna try you right here, Bitcoin. You're going to make me lose again. We'll see what it does. It still just looks like a pullback, and there's 1 hour 47 minutes left on this candle. So it's still a lot of time, 2 hours almost, and 2 hours is plenty enough time for price to break down through there, get all the way back to here, right? And in that scenario, you would have a bearish engulfing 8-hour candle. So if it takes, a lot of time and it just chops here for a lot of time, you start to see it, 5, 10, 15, you get into like 35, 45 minutes from now, it still isn't breaking down. That would feel more like support is trying to hold to me. But like right this second, anything could happen. It could still collapse. So I guess we could be patient and see what it does here. All right. So since we're going to be patient, see what it does here. Let me answer some questions real quick. Can you take a look at Palantir on the daily time frame? Yes, I can. There's the monthly. Right here is potentially where people would be interested in being a seller on Palantir. And then obviously there is the secondary selling point. So you can see here how Palantir broke above the daily 200 exponential moving average and gave you an upside continuation day with a close. As long as this day's low stays intact, you could argue that you have a near-term breakout happening. If you take this low out, this will be looked at as a bullish trap. It will be looked at as a bullish trap. This will be a swing high failure pattern in a near-term downtrend. Right? You're bearish on the year, so you're down on the year. Trend is down. Trend is down. This would be a lower high bounce or a dead cat bounce. It's just, do the sellers show up or do the bulls run it from there? Could I buy this if I was looking to be a Palantir bull? Probably, but I definitely would not want to see it get under that low. Like I said, it would feel like this was a trap to me, and then I would be more of a seller. I could be a buyer. The 21 is up and price is above it. So this is also a difficult position to take because I can make the case for both a bearish and bullish position here. It looks okay, but for the last 3 days, you've been making lower highs and lower lows. Well, at least the last 2 days. Lower highs and lower lows. Basically, the sellers hit it right there this morning. Like, you can see that wick just opened up, retested, and puked. And going into this morning's session, right before the bell, you had a bearish structure on your moving averages. That made it even easier for sellers to jump on Palantir right there. You see that? You see how your 21 is under the 200 and they're touching? Yeah, it's really easy. It's really easy for sellers to say, yeah, as long as price, and especially once it broke down below it, these guys right here hammered that candle. They were like, yep, sell. So now you're just going to have to wait and see what it does today. But it looks okay. If it can hold, if this breakout is real, if it's legit, if it's not just a dead cat bounce or a dead cat rally. A short covering rally. I hate saying the word dead cat, but it's the same thing. It's essentially your shorts refuse to put on new positioning down here. So it made it pretty simple for the bulls to take over control of momentum and blast right through the 21 and then blast right through the 200. So if that demand is legit, if that buying pressure is real, I would want to see that continue. Very, very, very shallow pullback so far. Yeah, that's a good looking weekly candle. You also have the weekly 21 up there. So that's another reason why resistance is here. There's a lot of resistance here. If I was a seller on Palantir through here, I could definitely have been a seller up in these prices. I wouldn't have been able to sell it this week, last week, the week that it actually was testing the 21, but this week I could easily be a seller at last week's close or at last week's high. There's last week's close, there's last week's high. So you can see like how it would have been a very easy short to take yesterday. As it traded above it right there. Now, it wouldn't have felt good if I did short it there and then at the close of the market, it was right back up to my entry. I would have hated that. But that's why I use stops. My stop would have still been there and then today would have been fine. That's if I would have traded it yesterday. I didn't. But if I was, that's what I would have looked at. On the week's platform, Palantir doesn't have much volume on it yet. I'm just kind of waiting for the volume to get bigger on these tokenized stock futures contracts on weeks, because they have a lot of stocks now that you can trade. Coinbase, Apple, Nvidia, MicroStrategy, Tesla, Amazon, Oracle, Palantir, FUTU, Reddit, JD.com, DFDV, Meta, Google, SPY, Hood, Qs, Microsoft, Circle, Taiwan Semiconductors, Walmart, Costco, and now copper. You can also trade copper futures. Copper futures are XCU, USDT on weeks. So I'm happy about the tokenization of these things. I just can't trade them with a full-size position yet. On Nvidia, I can only take 20 contracts. That doesn't do anything unless you get like a 3-day downtrending move. There's no point to trade it. It's just, it's a waste of time and capital. I would rather allocate that capital into something else that I can trade a full-size position on, like gold, silver, Bitcoin, Fartcoin. What is Fartcoin doing today? Because yesterday it was kind of blah. It's in the crisper drawer. Yeah, Fartcoin is bullish today, or at least it's up today, and it broke out above yesterday's high. Very choppy range yesterday. Very choppy range yesterday, but today, upside continuation. It's a bearish engulfing right now. An hour and 38 minutes left means this could close as a bullish engulfing too. It's not set in stone that it will remain a bearish engulfing. But, obviously, if I was long Fartcoin, I would not want to see a bearish engulfing 4-hour candle. Even if I did feel as if though it was nothing more than a pullback. So obviously I need to change the VWAP for the week. I need Sunday 2000 hours right there. Boom. So as long as it holds there though, I could remain bullish on Fartcoin. All right, Bitcoin's still holding that 8-hour wick. It's just like an inefficiency. I don't call it an inefficiency. I literally call it what it is, a retest. Anybody calling that an inefficiency? I don't know why. I don't know how that works. I don't really care either. But yeah, it's just a retest. It's retesting the prior range and to see if there's demand up at these prices. because the range you did break out. That doesn't mean that you're going to continue, but like I said, the more time that goes by with Bitcoin refusing to trade under this price, I would feel more like that's bullish, not bearish, as demand is coming up to this level. But only time will tell. Don't need any of this data anymore, as we pretty much have the daily range all sussed out. We want Bitcoin to hold support here. Our earlier entry was way too high up on the range, clearly. That was just a mistake on my end. This would be a better pullback / long entry, as it was even a 618 daily range retest. But now we'll find out if demand is here. VIX is 23.93. So VIX is coming off a little bit, which means risk markets are finding a little bit of intraday support. Oh, let's look at risk markets real quick. That's very important. These things, this is a massive rejection. Excuse me. This is a massive rejection. This is called a hammer candle. This is your breakdown point. December's low is the breakdown point. It's not like the breakdown. The breakdown would be here. Basically, if you can start closing daily candles under December's low, I would be targeting November or whatever this is. November's low. So here you go. You had the breakdown. You gapped down underneath all that garbage, right? Yesterday. Yeah, it is November's low. You gapped down below it, pushed lower at the beginning of the session, and then look at that response from the bulls. So this is clearly a rejection to go lower. As long as the S&P is trading above 67.28, yesterday's open, I would have a bullish bias. This pattern is so disgusting. It literally looks like it wants to break down, but it's refusing to break down for whatever reason. Whenever you have extreme fear out there, the bears don't need a reason to sell. They just sell. They don't care, right? You guys saw what Bitcoin did. That's what the S&P would be doing if it was as bad out there as everyone says it is. It would be breaking down. It would be going lower. It would be trending. But it isn't. And because it isn't, I have to wonder why. I would say it's a very crowded short trade. I have no doubt in my mind that everybody on Twitter and YouTube is bearish the stock market right now, which is why I would probably be looking to be bullish. That was my concern coming into the week, that it's not breaking down. If it was, we would be talking about a whole different scenario. But it isn't. And then here's silver right back up there again. So I would leave silver alone at this point. If silver was going to roll over, it would already be rolling over. You could still make money on the silver short, but I'm not going to play with this. I'm going to give it a couple days, see what it wants to do, then look to jump on a trending move. I need trends to make money. I can make money in a choppy sideways market, but not by putting on shorts and longs, right? I can sell calls, I can sell puts, but I can't take directionally biased spot trades and do real good. I can if I'm taking profits quickly, but I need the move to at least be a couple percent. If it's chopping inside of a 0.5% range, there's nothing for me there. It's still a little bit early in the session, right? And things still look pretty bad, even though we rejected these lower prices on risk markets, but they could go right back down there today. And then by the end of the week, this thing could be taken out this November low target. I mean, it doesn't look like it wants to go lower today. VIX, massive rejection up there. And then the dollar is, still chopping in a range. Of course, the dollar's still chopping in a range. We need trending markets. That's what we want. Trending markets. When Bitcoin trades sideways like this, my puts are losing money every single day. My long-term puts that I have on it, every single day goes by, I lose a little bit more money. So if it's going to go, I wish it would go. This sideways stuff, I expected it would be sideways for a couple weeks. 2 to 3 weeks. We've been sideways now for 6 weeks. We put that low in right here, February the 2nd. And we're in March. You've gone nowhere. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is week number 5. You've gone nowhere. And what's even worse is we're trading inside the weekly range. Weekly support is here. Weekly swing high is there. So very sideways. Very choppy. Difficult to trade. All right. Short Mondays high, says Tom O'Donnell. Good job. Can you take a look at Palantir? Yeah, we read that. Heath can only see. Yep, read that. Thank you for reminding me. Curious for your thoughts on IAK/DXY insurance sector against the dollar. I've never traded that sector before, or that ticker. I can pull it up, but I don't know what it is. Like, I can analyze it because I analyze price. But as far as like, I don't know enough in terms of like macro to do anything with this. Probably want to look at it on a longer time frame. Yeah, I mean, it's very choppy here. It's in a long-term range. Yeah, long-term range. So it's not really doing anything major. It's below last month's low, but the longer term range is still very much intact. So this right here, obviously this is breaking out. This is a pullback, breakout, pullback, breakout, pullback, breakout. And then since this last pullback, breakout candle, you've done nothing. So in my opinion, as long as it's above 1.17, it's fine. If it starts to break down under this, then I would be concerned. I would be very concerned. Now, does that mean there isn't any opportunity to take before that happens? Well, obviously the answer to that is no. You can look for opportunities here. If you get a retest here and a failure, you could look for an opportunity there. You've got confluences between objective price, which is the open, and then the 21 on the week. I know this is not a tradable asset, but if you are trading other assets, if they look similar to that, then that's how I would structure it. But Yeah, it looks fine. It doesn't look like anything nasty is happening here, which is good. Despite you talking about Bitcoin, yeah, I understand. Thank you. Wrong chart, still in your wrong. Boom, got it. Wes, put some pants on and go tell he's on the wrong screen. Hero Legend, would you short XRP here? Let's go look at where XRP is. I don't have an objective level to mitigate risk from here. Yeah, I don't have an objective level to mitigate risk from here. I have the 21 EMA, but that's it. And it's only the daily. So what I'm seeing here is you're squeezing. Price is squeezing. You're losing volatility, which is good. But that also means that eventually you could get a volatility pop. You're still not on the floor on volatility, but you can see how the moving average is squeezing down into price. And even though the sellers have got it here, they got it here, and then they shorted it here, they haven't been able to get the breakdown. You see what I'm saying? So although, yes, this chart looks weak, and as far as technical structure goes, yeah, it could be looked at as a short, but you're still very far extended from your 200 EMA. So since your daily 21 sellers have not been able to coax more than a couple days of downside continuation out of a 21 sell, my answer would be no. I would not be a seller here. Not today. Because I would be too worried about that. I would take a short position and then I would get squeezed. It looks like a squeeze is coming. When you see a support level as holding firm like this, and not only did it hold, like you put in a bear trap under it. There's your breakdown. That made everybody bearish. Finally, we're getting a close below support. And then what happened directly after that? Short squeeze. No, I would not short this. The bulls have control of order flow. You're trading you're trading above the midpoint on the daily range. You're trading above yesterday's high. Yesterday's high is where you would need to be under to be able to say you have a rejection happening. Since you're above yesterday's high, you have a trending move happening. Now, obviously, that does not mean that a short will not work today. Okay? I do not know what the future has in store for price ever. I can say, no, I wouldn't short here, and then it could be the best short of the year. You know what I mean? Anything is possible. But would I take it? The answer is no. Nope. And it's for all those reasons. The shorts have been trying to make money on XRP. And they have, to be fair, gotten a couple nice little moves, right? If you shorted up in here, you did good. And if you held it for any amount of time, you did get a trending move. There were 4 or 5 days in there that were sideways. These 3 days were sideways. These days were sideways, but then you broke down and you got a continuation down move lower. But it's not like heavy, fearful type of, oh shit, is hitting the fan type of selling pressure. So this market is clearly bearish and it's clearly weak. So for that reason, I could say, yeah, I would probably have more of a bearish overall bias. But I just couldn't put the short on here, unfortunately. Maybe up at daily res, or maybe up at like a previous week high. Maybe then I can talk about it. But like right here, no. It's the midpoint of last week's range. And you also have an old bullish open there that people might look at or construe as some sort of a level to keep an eye on. But when you're in the middle of the range, the trades are a lot more choppy and they work out a lot less frequently. Whereas, sometimes if you're going to see downside continuation, you get up into a level of the previous week and then that level holds perfectly. Then you see a continuation move after it. Those are just better trades. So maybe up here, if it could trade up here and then stop trending higher, then I could look for shorts then. That's all the way up there, though. It's not right here. But like I said, unfortunately, I can't predict price. I wish I could. I'd be a trillionaire. Okay, read that. Bitcoin to new lows. What do you say? To new lows? Well, you're on the high of day. I mean, you're up on the high of the weekly range so far. So new lows. You want my macro bias. You want me to say, yes, Bitcoin's going lower, or no, Bitcoin isn't going lower. What's the point? Like, I've already told you that not one single person can tell you where price is going to go. They can, and then they have a 50% chance of being right. How is that helpful, though? Like, knowing that it's a 50-50 shot of whatever I say. Your local low is in, and because you have not been able to see the bears get any downside continuation, I would say the local low is in. Yes. Is it going to be the cycle low? It's going to require about a year of time before I can make that statement with any accuracy. Unfortunately, we don't try to predict price. We're trying to take opportunistic opportunities, or we're trying to get into opportunities at good levels that we know can give us an edge, right? That's all we're trying to do. And then we mitigate those positions. So that way, when we're wrong, because we are often, actually, we don't lose a lot of money. So that way, when we are right, which we are often, we make more money. And in the long run, we are profitable. Predicting price or making, fresh low calls and fresh high calls, it's sexy when you're right. It doesn't mean anything. It's not helpful to anybody. When Bitcoin made that capitulation low, I made a very strong video showing the proof that it was a capitulation. It was the second largest sell-off in history. You liquidated more money in those 2 days than you had it was the second biggest in history. You were almost 3 standard deviations away from the 200-day exponential. Bitcoin has never, ever closed 3 standard deviations away from the 200-day moving average. And it still has not done that. Okay? And the reason it still has not done that is because this close, which is the lowest close in terms of standard deviations from the Bitcoin 200-day EMA. That is it. Like, this one is it. It's the winner. This close was a delta of 2.88 from the 200. The deviation from this price to this price was 2.88, almost 3 standard deviations. It's the biggest deviation you've ever had on Bitcoin. The biggest. So I would be hard pressed to be a seller here when the probabilities are so strong that the low is in. I want to look more towards the low being in. Now, the more time that goes by, obviously, if it can't start making higher highs eventually, then I will start to look at it as, yeah, we could get lower prices. This is a higher low. You're making higher lows. It wasn't until you broke that trend over here in January that you started to see the heavier selling pressure. Right? Once you broke that, then you spent about 7 days going sideways, but it was an easy sell, right? As long as you're closing dailies under the trend line, you could be a seller because you've broken that trend and you've not been able to repair it. So until that happens again here, I think it's a kind of it's not good, probabilistically speaking, to be a seller, because you're still many deviations extended away from that 200. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, we as traders and investors have to be more probabilistic than we do like just, witch magic or whatever. Technical analysis is very helpful when used correctly. But so until we get, a move that cuts deeper into the deviation of how far Bitcoin's price is away, because price is elastic. It is elastic. That's a proven fact. I didn't say that. I'm taking that info from other way smarter guys. It is proven fact that price is elastic. And when you spend a lot of time on the extreme, eventually it is going to flip back in the opposite direction, extreme. And we have spent a lot of time. Now, I don't know what the mean is. I don't know that the 200 is the mean. If the 21 day is the mean, then I would say, yeah, Bitcoin could start selling off any minute now, because we have reverted that mean. You have reverted, you have retested it. But with what price has done since that day, since this day, because this was the day that did get that retest, finally, after you lost here. This was the first time that the 21 exponential came back into contact with price. If this was the mean, then you would probably be putting in lower lows and lower highs. Bitcoin has been making higher lows and higher highs since that day. So that makes me feel like most likely it wants to retest a higher average. Because like I said, the sellers have not been able to get the breakdown yet. Now, once they get that, wherever it is, whenever it is, once they get that, then you'll see sellers get a lot more aggressive. And then I would tell you, yeah, you're probably going to see new lows. That's just the way it works, unfortunately. Nobody knows. Nobody has a magic 8-ball. We work on probabilities here and risk management. That's what I want to teach people, how to do that. Because when you got that, you're going to make money over time. It's going to be a beautiful thing. You'll stop gambling. You'll start being an actual trader. It'll be good. Is silver a short setup? I like a short setup on silver. I don't know if it's today, unfortunately. I like a short setup on silver because of last week's engulfing. My concern is the short on silver is a crowded trade. And if the short on silver is a crowded trade, then it won't roll over. It'll go up. Because I'm not the only person that sees silver as being extremely expensive up at these prices. Now, with that being said, that is a subjective statement. What is expensive? It's not for me to decide what is expensive or not. The market does that. The free market decides if it's expensive or not. And it couldn't break down last week when it had all the momentum. It had so much momentum. It could have continued. Why didn't it? Because the sellers eased off for whatever reason. They eased off. When the sellers are in control, guys, you get giant moves. Just look at Bitcoin. It proves it. When the sellers are in control, you get day after day after day of downside continuation. And then 3 days sideways, continuation, day after day. When the sellers are in control, no support matters. When you have fearful selling, when people are just like, get me out, I don't care what price. When that's happening, boom, 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 you make a lot of money. But they're not doing that on silver anymore. They did do it over here, but they have eased up. They've backed off. So now that they've backed off, I have to look, or at least wait until they show back up again, and then try to get in on a downside trade and then look for a continuation move. But I did that last week. I saw that it was stalling out. I got short. The dollar broke out like we were anticipating it was going to do. That's why I put the short on silver. We were anticipating a dollar breakout. It worked, but it only worked for 2 days. And then for 5 days, literally, I sat in that short watching as it did nothing. And then yesterday I had to close it. So if silver was a short, I would be making money on it today. Now, will it be later? Maybe. This is last week's range from high to low. So you're testing resistance now, the 618, and then the final resistance is up here. If you get above that, then the answer is no, it isn't. Obviously, it isn't. But you are into resistance here. And you are in price discovery today. It is right now trying to suss out who's in control of order flow. Right now, it's trying to do that. It feels to me like the buyers have it, though, because the sellers have not been able to get any even hourly closes under the midpoint of today's range. Like if we get rid of this fib and then just fib today from high or from low to high, and then we only focus on the midpoint. Okay, you got one, this one. So now we can delete this. And then we can just strike a line right here, bam, and say, objectively speaking, as long as you're not closing hourly candles under this price, the buyers have it. And it is a dangerous short. You're not making lower highs and lower lows. This high right here took out this high. This high was a lower high in regards to that high. You now have a higher high. Are these lows lower or higher? That low is low, but then it's higher low, higher low, higher low. So it feels like on the near term, the bulls are about to get a breakout. Now, I could be wrong, obviously. I could. Yes, this thing could absolutely reject. It rejected going lower at the previous 1 hour low. So it could absolutely reject going higher at the previous 1 hour high. So that's where I would try to put my risk on if I was looking for a short. I would want to see price trade up into this and then fail. And I don't want to see a big push above it. I want to see it just a little peep and then a failure. If it does that, you can sell here and put your stop here. Then if you come back down here, you can take profits. Okay? But it's a flip of the coin if you're going to make money or not. And since these lows are higher, I would argue against it. I would argue against it because it feels like it's about to spike. And then yesterday, with the evidence that we have from yesterday's range, the shorts tried it yesterday, they failed. It did the exact same thing yesterday, only it did ultimately make that lower close, right? It did break down from this, so you did get a lower close finally, but you even got a lower low, then higher high. Another higher low, higher high. This was a lower low, but still price stayed here at resistance for hours until boop. So, I mean, it doesn't look like a great short setup, but it could work. Be careful. Just make sure you're mitigating your risk, please. And I think you'll be fine. It's not about predicting whether it works or not. It's about making sure when you're wrong, your loss is smaller than when you're right. All right, going back over to Bitcoin real quick. We're back up at the day highs. So like I said, even though it feels like the sellers are in control, guys, they're not. The buyers are. That's why I had a bullish bias today. Did I eat a stop here? Yes, I did. I lost $30. How much am I making now? $200. So my wins are bigger than my losses. So let me take profits. Also, if this keeps going, if it makes a new day high, right here's your day high, it's going to stop out my last week short. It's very close to doing that. All right, so good to go. Nice. That's how it's done. You just got to make sure your winners are bigger than your losses. Euro is also working out. But, I mean, it could still fail, no doubt. I think for silver shorts, this is my opinion, and I could be wrong as always, but my opinion is I think we need dollar strength for silver to roll over. That's just, you know, it makes sense to me as being doing this for a long time. Now, silver could obviously, gold and silver could still be strong even if dollar's strong. But it would help to make a case, like it would be a stronger case in the court of trading. That it would be a lot better to look for silver shorts if your dollar was breaking out and continuing to trend higher. The fact that it came into resistance last week tells us a lot. It does. It tells us so much. Because the oil was super strong. What just happened? Oil was super strong last week. So the dollar should have had no problems breaking out. I mean, they call it the petrodollar, don't they? And the dollar did get strong last week. But it's what it did here that tells the story of right now. Yeah, dollar bulls had 100% control here. And then they backed off. The same way the sellers did on Bitcoin and other crypto assets. They had strong, firm control, and then they just, for whatever reason, they backed off. And now, even after a strong run and a liquidation even, that's where they died. They just said, nope, done. This tells me that dollar bulls took profits here. And so many of them did it that it actually made price roll over to go down in search of more demand. Like by all the dollar bulls that got their long move working here, they started scaling out all those profits, and then that forced price to head lower to go in search of demand. So when you have big profit-taking moves like this, it could take days for the trend to revive or even come back, if it is coming back. That's why I use averages to kind of help me with that. Like longer term, this is still bearish. So that is literally why they took profits. It's still bearish, and they see that same structure that I see. Now, if they continue to put dollar longs on, then ultimately it will find support and it will start to head higher. But at least while it's in this structure and still under August of 2025's high, I have to treat it as a range-bound asset. As no real confidence either or. So when I had a dollar bear bias and we got this massive move lower, made a lot of money, it was great. I loved it. But I was worried that the sellers would lose confidence down here. And they did. They did. They literally did. They lost confidence. And then the dollar bulls took it all the way back to the upside of the range. Now they're losing confidence. It's like this market is so choppy and so sideways. There's no confidence on either side of the market right now. None whatsoever. When we finally do get that confident breakout move and it sustains itself with legit momentum, and then like it turns into almost like a feeding frenzy, right? That's when you'll make a lot of money on the dollar trades. If you're on the right side when that frenzy appears or happens. But in my opinion, you're going to need a strong move down away from 96.21, or you're going to need a strong move up away from 125 for that frenzy to show up. When it does, we'll be ready. We'll be ready. For now, we just have to try to position ourselves in and around the range. Hence the reason why I was looking for dollar shorts today, not dollar longs. So I'm long euro, right? We're into resistance. Resistance held. It took many, many days, but it is holding. You are trending lower now. Yesterday was a crucial signal because you had the breakout. There at like one point in time, you were breaking out. You were above the prior week's high. So at that point, we should have seen a large move. We should have saw price reprice higher quickly and aggressively. That didn't happen. So I wasn't bearish yet when that happened, but when we took out Friday's low and closed under it, yeah, it was an easy trade to look for downside continuation today. That is a rejection if I've ever seen one. Now, I just don't know how low it'll go. I assume since it held here last week, if it gets back down here again, that will be the big level to watch. We'll see if dollar bulls show up again or if they leave it alone. We'll see. We'll find out. Could take a few days still, but choppy price action sucks. It's very boring. Very boring. All right, back over to Bitcoin as it is breaking out. Back above this key level. This is a key level for me. Might not be for other people, but for me, it is crucial that Bitcoin holds that level in the future. Yeah, it's looking good for the month of March. This is what I didn't want to see it lose. Also, looking at the 8 hours, very simple to see. Remember what I said when we were testing this? There was an hour and some change left on this candle. I said, right now, this is just a midpoint check. It's just a retest. This is the buying area. And now you're seeing upside continuation. Now, if we look at the 4 hour, 58 minutes left, it no longer. Now, if it fails again and comes back down here, it'll be a bearish engulfing candle. But as of right now, it's back as a bullish engulfing. See, my first entry was hyper aggressive. Hyper aggressive. Right there. When the average is right there. Like, come on, bro. You're better than that. I got a little bit, what do you call it? Anxious. I wasn't patient enough. I got stopped out of 2 longs already last week. I tried to buy Bitcoin twice last week. We tried to buy it here, and then the next day we got smoked. And then I tried again over in here, and I got smoked again. Getting long Bitcoin has been a difficult, slow road. Yeah. I didn't want to see this happen. It happened again, so I was afraid we were going to see the exact same thing that we saw back in January. But then the bulls showed up randomly at a time when there's no way the bulls should show up. This is on the weekend. Like, come on, we're at war. This thing should be breaking down, right? Yeah, no. War. You get a 2 a.m. announcement from Donald Trump. We're going to war, and instead of Bitcoin breaking down and heading to the lows, it goes up for the next 2 days. Like crazy stuff. Yeah, that short got stopped out. It was last week's short anyway. It did its job. It got paid. All right, silver still not breaking down here. Got 55 minutes left on this close. When is the XAG USD OANDA close? 2 hours away. Yeah, this isn't looking good. I don't think I would be trying to force a short here any longer, especially with the dollar showing us weakness today. Yeah, it is what it is. Put some pants on, you're the wrong screen. Got it. But no pants is the way to go, so I would say take the pants off. No, we're not putting no pants on. It's 77 degrees and sunny outside. Bitcoin look and lean towards the bears. Possible target 64.5, 65 sweep if risk off flares. Yeah. The best thing to look for risk off is Aussie yen for you guys that do want to look and try to trade risk on, risk off momentums. That's the reason I was showing you Aussie yen today, right? It is the very aspect of risk on, risk off. When it's a risk off condition, this thing will get creamed, where it used to in the past, I should say. Maybe that changes in the future, but in the past, this asset was a perfect asset to look at when it was risk off. That is not risk off. That is the opposite of risk off. Okay, Bitcoin is up. Looks like Nvidia is breaking out. Like I said, I thought it was going to. It is. So now I want to see, this is not a liquidation of last week's high. Obviously, you're trading well above last week's high at this point. Looks like the sellers were looking for the same thing I was looking for. As you can see how they jumped on Nvidia once it got up to last week's high. So at least sellers had the same idea that I had, only I didn't jump on it. Other things are starting to play out. Dollar strength, dollar weakness. Dollar strength is fading. It hasn't faded. It's just in the process of potentially fading. So yeah, I think the best place is going to be here if it can get there. I don't know if it's going to get there today. If it moves like it did yesterday, it could. Sellers are still looking to participate in Nvidia shorts. And I'm not looking at the blue or the yellow, guys. I'm just looking at the size of the node. The colors are irrelevant to me. You won't know if it's true buyers. I mean, there is no such thing as true buyers or sellers. There are always buyers and sellers. What you won't know is the positioning, right? You don't know if they're buying because they think it's going higher, or if they're buying because they're getting stopped out of a short. They're still buyers, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, it just doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to gain an edge by knowing whether or not there's more buyers or sellers at a level. That's not what I'm looking for. What I want to know is their interest at the level. Do the nodes get swole at the level? See how all the nodes around this level, yesterday's high, are swolled? They're big. That means there was a lot of interest here today at this level. Same here. As prices breaking out and trading into this level, you can see how that interest showed up. Bam, 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 bam. Clearly it was people getting stopped out. Any shorts from last week's range had their stop above last week's high. They got stopped. So that brought in new buying pressure. But there was a lot of interest here as this node got swole. Now these nodes are getting swole. So there is interest in the short trade. Does it roll over or does it continue? That's what we have to wait on and see and be patient. If you guys didn't, if you got long here this morning and you haven't taken profits yet, you definitely should. This is resistance. I don't know that it will hold, but it is resistance. I would hate for you to just set and hold this long, hoping that it goes higher when it comes back and stops you out. That would suck. So if you got in it, take profits. Resistance is always resistance until proven otherwise. Looking for a 2% move, that was 2.5%, 2.6. You should be taking profits. But yeah, if Nvidia can reject 187.20, I'll put a short on again. Probably not today if it gets up there today. It would probably be tomorrow, depending on where price is when the market opens. Like if we get up here today and then trade sideways for the rest of the day, tomorrow's open. If we're still trading around this level, I would be interested in looking for a short tomorrow. Today, there's too much momentum for me to look for the short right now. Momentum can carry it through the rest of the day. Tesla also looking a little bit bullish, also bouncing off of November's low, objective support. It's as simple as that. If you had a bullish bias on Tesla, that's essentially where you would have been looking to put risk on. If you were looking for the long. It happened pre-market, unfortunately. No, it didn't. It happened yesterday morning at 10 o'clock. That would have been the level to be interested in getting long, as that is the range low. The trend line is it's just subjective, but it's also there. So there's a little bit of confluence down here. Also 2025 yearly opening range, but this is the objective. If you're losing this and continuing, you have lost the range. So let's see what we got on the higher time frames. Pretty sure, yeah, it's a couple weeks old now, so we'll be more interested in last week's high just to see what it does. We're not interested in shorting it right off the bat. We might be. Last week's high, what do we do when we get there? And then where is the daily 21? Weekly is come down a bit. That's close enough. Daily has come down a bit. So structure is still bearish here. Your daily 21 is still under your weekly 21 on Tesla. So the structure is still bearish. Longer term, though, the 200 is holding a support. The 200 day. Oh, yeah, very, very choppy. The last several days, very choppy. February's open. Hang on, let me make sure. Yes, absolutely. No doubt in my mind. February's open will be my favorite place to look for shorts. It must fail there. If it does, I will short Tesla again. Another couple days and it could be there. It could hold. Resistance could hold here. Obviously, it held on this day and this day. It could hold again. But I think up here would be a better... I think the probabilities would be better for a short up there than down here. So I'm watching 421.29 on the days to come. I won't love a short up there if it happens this week. I'll just be honest with you. Because this will feel like a lot of bullish momentum off of support. Also a weekly 50 test. Look at that, man. Absolute thing of beauty there. Yeah, so I would be like, well, it might have too much momentum, so maybe maybe it's next week. Maybe it's not this week. Next week, we'll see what we get. This week, it'll be way too much momentum. We'll see if it can even get there. That's also going to be very useful info. If it can't make a higher daily close than these 2 days right here, you could make the argument that you could look for a short here at 408. We'll see what it does in the next couple days. Aussie yen still very bullish. Gold breaking out here. Silver's trying to break out. It's still struggling to break out. Well, I wouldn't even say that it's struggling. It's been making higher lows and higher. Well, this was a higher high, but the lows have all been higher for the last several hours. So it's just a matter of time before it breaks out, it seems like. Ethereum, I haven't really been looking at a lot lately because I've been focusing more on silver. I can take a full-size position on, and right now the fees are free. So whenever I get an opportunity to trade something where I can get fully positioned in and I will pay 0 fees on market orders, I'm on it. You know what I mean? That's like a gift. Give it to me. Let me have it. It's free money. And they still pay you like the funding fees. It's free money. Free money. Right now the funding rate pays the longs on silver. 0 fees, plus you get paid to be long. So it makes sense to be long. All right. Bigger rejection than I wanted to see here. I wanted to see it just break out, but clearly sellers are going to try to get it there. Also, we're seeing a little bit of rejection on euro dollar here. So dollar bears are not winning this battle. Not as strongly as I would like to see them winning it. To be fair, it still looks okay for downside continuation. It's not like I'm going to close my long on euro or anything. But if the dollar does start to make higher highs, I will have to. Just very slow trading the dollar is. I don't... Freaking annoying ass dollar. Would you just trend already, bro? We've been waiting on you to trend for months. Looks like December's PA. It did until yesterday and today, right? Yesterday and today changed that all around. Because when we did that rejection in December, when in January, it was December's high is what he means when he says it looks like December. December's high was the rejection level. And when we rejected December's high, that's when we kind of had a bias on Bitcoin. We could be going lower. So when we lost this, that's why I got short there. Like it could be going lower again, and it did. But yesterday and today, it kind of changed that a little bit because of where it bounced. It bounced off of the weekly open, and it bounced off the weekly open with momentum. If I was a seller, I'd be like, because if you go back over here to December's high, right? They rejected, boom, right there. They lost it. Then you lost the day 21 here. That was it. Once you lost that trend line, it was over. Zero bullish momentum. Zero. Downside break. This was a little bit more momentum, but still not much. Like you still couldn't even trade above the 21. That is different here. It is not doing the same thing. This is different. More momentum, and we're trading way above the daily 21 today. You couldn't do that in December or at December's high. Once you lost the 21, it was an easy sell. Easy sell. I can't make that same statement. This is an easy sell. Easy. I can't say that. We're above the 21. It's different. It's doing something different. So what is different? What's it going to do? We don't know. But it looks good. It looks constructive. At least the bulls were able to do that. And I do like the higher lows. I like that. We can make a higher high. Whew, that would be nice. Looking at December's and January's range, these candles are much bigger also. Like this bullish candle is bigger than anything you did back here. Anything. That thing is big. Big, big, big. It feels to me like Bitcoin has a very crowded short trade on right now, so I don't want to be with the rest of the herd. I just don't. It feels like it just, for whatever reason, it cannot go lower, so it's a very risky short. That's just the way it feels to me. I could literally be wrong, though. Well, time will tell. Time will tell. USD JPY is rejecting last year's high and the last 3 months high. Thoughts? Let's go look at it. I haven't looked at it in days. Aussie strong because gold and silver are breaking out today. So because of what Aussie dollar is doing or Aussie yen is doing, it makes it very difficult for me to be short this asset. Now with that being said, I do have a short side bias on the dollar today, and I will have until it gets to the daily 21. Once it gets there, we'll have to see what it does. If it breaks down below the daily 21, then I'll be full on right back to dollar bear, as bared up as I can get. The problem with shorting USD versus the JPY is very simple. The spread between the interest rate is still massive. So that means you're going to be when you are a seller, you're paying a premium to be holding that short. On 10,000 units with Forex.com, that's $1, like $1.25 every day. You got to pay to sit in a short every single day on 10,000 units. So on 20,000 units, it's $2. On a lot, on one lot, that's $10. 2 lots is $20 a day. What I'm trying to say is there's a huge premium to hold a net short position. So even if you're right, if you don't get a big trending move lower, your P&L is going to get dissected on a daily basis. As price chops back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, your unrealized gains are going to go lower, lower, and lower. That's why you're not seeing a one-sided trend here on this thing. It just doesn't pay to be short the yen versus the dollar, or be short the dollar versus the yen. It pays to be long dollar versus the yen because of these, like the carry trade, the interest rate differential. It's massive. That's not the interest rate chart. It's massive. And it's not going to pull up. Of course not. Why would it? Wrong one. Right here. Still nothing. Let me refresh. So, still very wide. So what you need to be short JPY or short USD JPY, you need lower interest rates and you need Japan to be hiking. Once this spread gets closer together, it'll be more attractive, is what I mean. So we could be seeing in future that it does end up being a good short. If we get the BOJ intervention, then you would get a sharp move like you did here when the Fed was testing liquidity, or at least just getting a price check. That caused a lot of people to unwind this carry trade. You're going to need that to happen to make money on this trade. And as long as that isn't happening, as long as they're willing to set in that carry, this thing could just continue to trend higher, slowly, over time. When I look at it on the daily, it no longer looks like a short to me. I mean, obviously it looks like a short because it's in the big resistance levels, like you said. But the structure is still bullish here. Very bullish. Let's go look at the levels exactly. You said it rejected 2024's high. Briefly, or sorry, 2025's high. Yes, it has done that. And right now you're above Q3's or Q4's high. Yes, you are. Yeah, and it looks like it happened yesterday. You got up here and it rejected. I can't stand looking at those gaps. Here, let me just do this. Yeah, it looks like they did it yesterday. And with dollar weakness today, you could potentially make money on it. It could start to break down here. The yen is weak also today. No, it's not strong today. Okay. That's why the dollar yen is rejecting. Yeah, this is a massive level on yen futures. It could work, but you need a big trending move. Otherwise, you're going to get feed to death. The fees are just going to get yoked out every week. And on Wednesday, they charge double. Okay? So try to avoid setting in a short on Wednesday if possible. At the close on Wednesday, they take double or triple. Actually, they take Wednesdays and Saturday and Sundays fees out at the close on Wednesday. It's quite a bit of money. It'd be $60 all at once on a one lot or a two lot. Yeah, there's just not that much. There's just not a lot. I think you'd be better served looking for something else Maybe euro yen. I haven't looked at euro yen in a minute. What's the interest rates look like on euro yen? It doesn't matter. I could just pull up. I'll pull up and see what the fees are to trade euro yen. And if it's cheaper to be short euro yen, I would probably rather be short euro yen. If you're shorting USD JPY, I would ask you, are you looking for dollar shorts or are you looking for yen longs? I think if you can boil that question down, you can get positioned better, if that makes sense. I'm not saying your USD JPY shorts suck either. Please don't mistake what I'm trying to say. If you can tell me what you like better, then I can help you find a better asset to trade for that scenario. But yeah, the dollar's currently weak today, but the last couple of weeks, it's in the process of breaking out. It's in the process of actually breaking out. I mean, it's trying to, right? So this weekly range still looks okay. And you're right at support. You're right at around the midpoint of last week's expansion. You're above last week's 20. You're above the weekly 21 too. So I would anticipate this price being support this week on the dollar. And then if that happens, if this weekly candle closes looking like this at all, like if there are no lower lows under 98.43, I'd be worried that the next week you're going to see that breakout, as you've already made that higher high this week. Now all you need to do is set a higher low, and then it could be off to the races for dollar bulls. They're literally trying to suss that out today. Dollar bulls are literally trying to suss that out today. Unfortunately, I can't get volume data on this. I don't know if this is light volume, if it's a light volume day, or if it's a heavy volume day and you're not going anywhere. That would be very, very bad for dollar shorts if the dollar doesn't start rolling over soon. And because you're not really seeing that breakout here yet either. The dollar is literally in control. I think a lot of people are watching the dollar. Okay, so like how I said earlier, Bitcoin is a really crowded short trade right now. And that's why I don't really want to be short Bitcoin, because it's such a crowded short. That's exactly what I said last week about the dollar. It just got to be such a crowded short position. Down here in February, the dollar was the most shorted it had ever been, according to what's his name, Johnson, the milkshake guy. He said in the video I watched the other day, I don't look at open interest on the DXY. I only look at technicals. I get a technical bias from the DXY, and then the only thing I care about macro wise is, are we cutting rates or are we rising interest rates? If we're cutting, that should be more bearish. If we're raising, that should be bullish. So that's it. It's pretty simple for me to just look at the dollar and get a bias. But I didn't know that it was the most heaviest short positioning that I had ever been done on the dollar before. And then what did the dollar do? It refused to break down. It went higher. So when you get too one-sided like that, that means, yeah, the market tries to hurt the most people possible, right? So if everybody's short, it's going to go up. If everybody's long, it's going to go down. It's like weird. But yeah, The dollar needs to suss out direction, and it needs to break either higher or lower. So that way we can see that aggressive move. If it breaks lower, I like Bitcoin higher. If the dollar breaks higher, I like Bitcoin lower. Because on the macro, the dollar does influence Bitcoin. On the macro. I'll put... Let's go over here on this chart, because this chart will be easier to see it as I can stay on log with Bitcoin. And we'll just go out to the 3 month to make it very simple to see, and then we'll compare the DXY to it. It's not the near term, it's the macro. The macro moves. A dollar has a macro move to the upside here. Bitcoin rolls over, dollar gets sideways here, Bitcoin does nothing. Dollar has a slight move higher, but then it rejects, and then Bitcoin rallies. While the dollar is rolling over, Bitcoin is rallying. The dollar had been sideways through here, Bitcoin sideways through here. Now, Bitcoin did rally as the dollar broke down. Dollar finds support and then rallies, and then Bitcoin breaks down. So since then, we had a rally on Bitcoin when the dollar's been chopping very sideways, right? We need a macro move. We need one of these macro moves, one of these big giant moves, whether up or down. Doesn't matter. If it's up, I would be more of a bear on Bitcoin. If it's down, I would be more of a bull on Bitcoin. So clearly, I want the dollar to break down. The dollar breaks down and then they start printing money like crazy. That could be a perfect environment for Bitcoin. If the dollar's strong and then they start printing money like crazy, then maybe the dollar rolls over. It is what it is. I'm just saying that long term, the more macro moves on the dollar has influenced Bitcoin in the past. So I would much rather see the dollar break down, because people make money when Bitcoin is bullish. More people make money when Bitcoin is bullish. It's easy to be long and hold along. It's difficult to look for positioning on shorts and, entering and exiting. It can really destroy a portfolio if you don't know what you're doing. Whereas just holding a single position over time is so much easier. So yeah, people make more money in bull markets because of that. So clearly I want the dollar lower. I think the USD is going to be weak. Yeah, I'm not that sure. Yeah, I do too, long term. I think the dollar will be weak. That's why I'm kind of like very curious to see what it does here. It's at resistance, so it could roll back over. Could roll back over. So dollar short positions. So I've been holding a dollar short position on, let me see here. USD Swissy. I've been holding a long-term short on this, looking for dollar weakness, right? And the Swissy was strong all year in 2025. So that kind of helped this to break down. And now you can see that even though it isn't still breaking down, it did get a large breakdown move, and it's been in price discovery since. But that's because the dollar is still very much sideways and choppy. But if I look at USD Swissy, longer term, this looks weaker to me. So if the USD Swissy bears can stay on this thing, this is also the same scenario. To be short, it's expensive to be short this because of the fees. But yeah, I mean, hopefully dollar bears can, or at least USD Swissy bears can push this lower. That could put pressure on the DXY. Then you could see it play out in USD yen. The problem is, as long as the yen is weak, you would need the dollar to be weaker in order to see a trending move on USD JPY. Because any day that the yen is weaker than the dollar, that's going to make USD JPY chop. It'll be very choppy. So a perfect scenario for a USD JPY short would be extremely weak dollar and extremely strong yen. Those are the scenarios you need for that trade to play out long term. And I agree with you in saying, yes, it is rejecting last year's high. And as of right now, Q4's high. So if it can continue to do that in the future, I would hold the short. I would be okay with holding the short. If it starts to get choppy, I would just bail and try to position later on when a trending move starts to take place. Because eventually it will. Eventually a trending move will happen in one way or the other. With the threat of BOJ intervention looming, it seems like it would be to the downside. But the problem is all of the risk that's in the carry trade is also keeping the U.S. stock market afloat. So there's serious ramifications if that carry trade starts to fail. Because to unwind that carry trade, they're going to have to unwind their long Nvidia, long Amazon, long Google, long stocks, right? They'll have to unwind that stuff too, and then unwind the USD JPY carry trade. And it would be just this massive cascading event that could bring down dollar, yes, but unfortunately, it could also bring down the stock market with it. And I have a hard time believing that big money managers would do something. Like, obviously they don't care. They're going to do whatever works best for them to make money in the long run. I would have no problem holding a short USD JPY trade if the stock market rolls over. None. But I know that would hurt a lot of hardworking Americans. And it would make me feel disgusting. But I would do it. No doubt. The market rolls over, I'll be short. Yes, I will. Just like Bitcoin. I don't love these things. I trade them. I am a trend follower, so I want to be on the trend. Yeah, there's a threat that the BOJ intervenes, but as long as JGB yields are like up, people are going to be short the yen. They just are. And like I said, you also have that spread between interest rates. So as long as you can get cheap yen, that carry trade is always out there. It's always there. So when you have a higher interest rate on one currency and a lower interest rate on the other, you could take your currency, exchange for their currency, and then get a loan or whatever, right? It's just another form of leverage in the system. And it's that carry that is keeping the yen so weak. That's why when you look at this long term, it's when the USD went to ZIRP. Zero interest rate policy. See how the USD JPY was just a very choppy, sloppy mess for years, right? Very, very quick trends. They just weren't long lasting because of just, the relationship between the two. The yen had a negative interest rate. So as long as the dollar had a zero interest rate, there's no interest here for anybody. Nobody. Like, There's a slight, tiny spread, but not enough to matter. It's when the interest rate on the dollar had to get hiked to slow inflation. So when the Fed went on their hiking interest rate policy in 2020 and 2021, it was the fastest interest rate hike in the at the time, right? The most aggressive interest rate hike ever. That's what put bullish pressure under this. That carry trade, investors knew, we did too. We tried to get involved on it. That you were going to make more money just to be long USD versus the yen. And it literally made this thing skyrocket and has been keeping it up. Now, USD JPY bears have not been making money as of late. USD JPY bulls have been. And there's nothing on the macro has shifted enough yet to force that carry trade to unwind. Not interest rate policy. The BOJ has been hiking, but they went from -10 or it's a 0.1 on their interest rate, -0.1 to +0, and then 1. Now they're up at 75, so 0.75. The next yen interest rate decision will be this month, I think. Let's ask Grok. I'm pretty sure it's this month. Oh, that's not Grok. That is. I'm pretty sure it's this month. There, quick. When is the next BOJ rate decision? Yeah, this month, March 18 to 19. It'll happen during the Asian session. So it'll be like 9 o'clock New York time, PM. They need to hike. And then the next Fed rate decision, you need to see them lower. That has been the trend. But because our Fed has been so slow to cut interest rates, and the BOJ has been so slow to hike, it has kept the carry trade open. And as you can see by looking at this chart, long term, investors are still interested in that. So you almost need an unwind to occur. And I don't see anything on the macro that says that's going to happen anytime soon. Now, if the BOJ intervenes, that might cause some serious downside pressure on the near term, like it did here. But that only lasted for a few weeks. What, like 3 months? And then the buyers came right back because it got to interesting prices again. 128. That's after it tagged 150. That's a 25-point move. Yeah, I could be a buyer at 128 as long as the interest rate spread is as wide as it is. And then every time the BOJ intervened, it was short-lived. And then just a couple years later, we're right back at these prices again. BOJ had to intervene again. Well, same scenario. You got several weeks of downside, a quarter maybe. And then those buyers showed right back up. So before anybody can say that the carry trade is pretty much toast, 140. 140 is the price. You break that, then you could potentially say that carry trade has been toast. It has been busted. So 140 is a massive support while the interest rates are still the way they are. And they're not going to change anytime soon. The Fed they're not jumping to cut interest rates. We do have a new Fed guy though. So we could see, a pretty big cut on his first rate decision. We'll see. We'll see, right? It could be Q3, Q4 before the USD JPY short is an actual trade that is a macro trade. Hopefully what I've said makes sense to you and you see what I'm saying. Like, it could be several quarters before that trade is actually something that everybody's going to be looking at. Right now, still way too early. And I think looking for shorts is going to be, you're going to make money here and there. I have no problems with people trying to scalp USD JPY shorts, none. And since it is at an objective level, you could absolutely look for a day trade, right? You're going to get intraday and intra-week volatilities that you're going to be able to make a little bit of money here and there. But, I mean, yeah, I have no problem with that. But for long-term, a long-term sell, like I want to get short USD JPY here, and then anticipation of a carry trade unwind, you got a long time before that's going to happen. And we're also seeing it in the stock market too. We can see it in Nvidia. We can see it in Tesla. We can see it in them. They're refusing to break down. Or they're literally refusing to break down. So when that carry trade unwind happens, it's going to be brutal, probably market wide. And then with Aussie yen trying to short it, as long as gold and silver are moving higher, you're going to have difficulty shorting Aussie yen because Aussie gets its strength from gold. Aussie is not in the DXY basket. So Aussie is not really affected by the dollar so much. It can be because it's trading against it, but yeah, as long as gold has been bullish, Aussie dollar has been strong. There for a brief bit in 2025 early, you saw a nasty dip on Aussie, but then gold started ripping, and so did Aussie. And then when you look at it versus the yen, it's even worse. It's even worse. This thing's been going up forever. But yeah, when you do get those risk-off moves, Aussie yen is the best place to be. Absolutely. Because this thing can fly to the downside. So if we start to see gold and silver pull back, I'm not necessarily talking about a collapse or a crash, but just pull back off the highs, and yen does firm up, I think Aussie yen would be a more favorable short than dollar yen. And we don't even need interest rate policy to affect that. If you get a BOJ intervention and then gold and silver both pull back, Aussie yen would be my favorite Forex trade. But those things need to start happening first. And they're just not. They're just not happening. So Aussie yen is up even on a day when the yen is up. The yen is up today. It's up 0.4%. And Aussie yen is just screaming. Almost up 0.5% now. Yeah, Aussie is just freaking strong, man. Because of gold and silver. All right. Check on oil. It's retesting last year high. Yeah, oil was insane. Absolutely insane. Be careful trading that thing. It rejected the high month close, or a high month close. Retesting last year's high. Right now, this wick took out 3 years worth of highs. There's 2025, 2024, 2023. Like, the only one you did not get was 2022. And the reason that was so vicious is because of the Russia-Ukraine invasion. Yeah, I would say oil does probably go back to 75, $78 in the future, especially if they start firing up the Strait of Hormuz again. Yeah, I would say oil probably will retrace some of this. But man, it's volatile right now. Yesterday it didn't really do a whole lot until it did. It did break down. Ultimately, you got one good move there, and then again at around 3 o'clock, you got a nice move yesterday. It looks like it's trying to reject some hardcore pricing here. Last week's open would probably be a good price to watch if it gets back up there. You can see how people were selling that. Probably more so than the yearly level. I would argue that it was the weekly open that brought in the sellers today. Yeah, I would keep my eyes peeled on these higher time frame levels for sure. Yeah, there really ain't much else to go by because of that massive gap up and move up on Friday, and then over the weekend it went absolutely apeshit because now you have 24/7 on 24/7 trading on these things because they're all over the world now. Weeks even put on an oil contract, a perpetual swap. I can't remember what its ticker was, like XTI or something like that. Where's it at? I don't see it on weeks. Maybe if I get rid of the T. I don't see it anywhere. It's XTI, I'm pretty sure. It's new. It just opened up over the weekend. Yeah, it's XTI USDT. Down 12%. Yeah, these things right here is why you had such a massive gap up in the oil market this Sunday evening when the futures market opened on oil. It had such a massive gap up. This thing traded all weekend. I don't know why it's not showing it trading here, but it did on weeks too. Yeah, that's going to affect oil moving forward. But that's also you're going to get huge moves now potentially because of crypto traders being offsides trying to short a too big of a move on oil, but trying to time that is so hard. It got massively overbought. So Bitcoin is still struggling to break out here on this week range high. Silver still not breaking out, but it's still not rejecting resistance either. You did make a higher high on the 4 hour. So it's starting to go now. I think if the dollar could go, or if euro could rip, the dollar would roll over, Bitcoin would roll. I mean, it would take off. But so would this probably. $90 is a big figure number. So, I mean, I'm interested to see what it does, but it's not like I'm going to press the issue either. As it didn't hold back here. And we've, yeah, I mean, it could hold, but it looks like it wants to try to head this is probably what it's looking to liquidate at this point. It's not a weekly level, but it's definitely going to be a daily swing high. Maybe if it breaks out today and trends up to here, we could look for potential short scalps on oil, like maybe, or on silver, like maybe tomorrow. If the dollar does not roll over today, if it holds support, like it's doing, right? It's not breaking down. It isn't breaking down strongly. It feels like dollar bulls are trying to prop this thing up. If I don't get a breakout on euro dollar soon, I'm going to switch my bias back to the short on euro dollar. Because I like euro dollar for a pure dollar play. So it looks bad, but it's already liquidated that daily high and it's refusing to go higher. So it's like this is the point at which it needs to break out. It's not a weekly swing high though. It's just a daily swing high. If the euro refuses to break out here today, it looks fine for the breakout. Right? It looks good. I'm not going to close the trade out or anything yet. But it needs to go soon. I would like to see this candle close above 116.548. If I could get that and see some continuation, then I wouldn't even be worried about a euro dollar short. But if it doesn't, if it refuses to break out here, I'll probably close the long and look to put the short on. Let's look at this on forex.com, because if we look at this on forex.com, we can get some volume level. We can get some volume metrics going here. Where it is? Where you at, bro? There you are. Let's see what we have going on here. Wrong one. Give me today. Yeah, it was a little bit weaker here. What does it look like on Oanda? Same thing. See how your buyers aren't like as strong as they were yesterday? See through here how it was clearly the sellers that were keeping control. Finally get a big strong breakout and then like very slight volumes today. It's mixed. It's a mixed bag. You get a strong breakout move and price confirms the move by breaking out. I would not be looking for the short. But I need to see something pretty damn soon here. POC is also setting right at 4-hour res. I wouldn't take the short based on this data. But if I don't see heavy bullish price action with bullish deltas, I'm going to be very worried that those dollar bulls are absorbing the selling pressure. Let me see here. What else? I want to look at March's data. Okay, so it's right there, huh? Let's look at March's data here. Okay, so this is March only. I'm only looking at the March open to where we are now. And you can see where the volume is. You see what I'm saying? Like, hello. There's a ton of volume building up here. There's no volume in these. This is like just a missing block of volume. Those are tiny nodes. Very small. Yeah. Huge volumes here. And it's, some of these have a pretty big bullish delta. So weird because we're not seeing bullish deltas down here on any of these daily ranges. Clear bearish delta here at 1 a.m. I'm sorry, 1 p.m. No, that's a.m. 100 hours is a.m., dummy. And heavy deltas early on, but then they just could not get it any lower. And then it's, you filled in this wick. You went down, liquidated that wick, spent several hours chopping traders up under that level, but ultimately they got paid if they held it. So that would have been a difficult scalp. Very difficult. That liquidation right there happened. So anybody that bought that, they got stopped out. Big move higher. Come back in. Gave you a higher low, and then it took off. It's just, for whatever reason, there's no demand up here today. Yeah, it almost feels like the dollar is holding support today, guys. It's trying to hold support. The dollar is. You start to see heavy negative deltas and price confirms those deltas by dropping, we might be looking for dollar longs, not euro longs. Take profits on Bitcoin. Take profits on Bitcoin. All right. Is coin getting rejected? Well, then we'll look at this one and then we'll wrap it up. Let's go look at coin. I got some errands I got to run today. I got to get some paperwork signed and documented. I wouldn't call this a rejection. No. It had a nice bounce, a very strong bounce. See, it had a much stronger bounce than Bitcoin did because we're looking at the daily on coin and your 200 EMA is right here. So very strong bounce. Bitcoin is just still down here. However, with that being said, it looks like the sellers are trying to fill the gap. It looks like the buyers are so far defending the gap. This is obviously the gap in question here because you closed here, gapped up. The sellers are looking for gap fill. Buyers are trying to buy the gap. I'd say if you lose yesterday's low, I'd be concerned because you set a higher weekly high today. So, like, if I was trying to buy Coinbase or if I was trying to trade Coinbase today, I would probably have more of a bullish bias and I'd be looking for bullish entries in this area. My problem with it is what today is done. Like, obviously, it would not feel good buying this. Does that make sense? Like, clearly the momentum today is bearish. Deltas are heavily bearish. And price is doing that. So it would be a risky long. I would be more okay with the long if the deltas were like real close to neutral. But this is not even close to neutral. This is trending. Oh, price just hasn't broken down yet. Now, if it does this all day, if the delta trends down all day long and price keeps making higher lows, I would take a long on Coinbase. Because then at least you would have a divergence and you could say that there might be an iceberg soaking up all those asks. And then I'd be looking for a breakout to the upside on tomorrow. But with the deltas configured like this, there's no way. And price looking like this, there's no way I would buy this price today. There's just too much momentum and it's confirmed with deltas. I wouldn't be looking for a short here either because it is potential support. It's daily support. It held as support here. That's where you close the day out, so that is support. You gapped under it and the sellers tried to get it under it and they couldn't hold it. So it is support. So if the deltas continue to trend and price just stays sideways here, then later on in the session, I'd be a buyer. If I was only looking for a 1 or 2 day scalp. Now for the longer term time frame chart, like for the long term, I mean, it still looks pretty rough. I don't want to be coy about it. It still looks pretty damn rough. I need this thing to get back above that. This has a lot of work to do. This probably is not going to happen quickly. I think that would be a sell on the first retest. A profit-taking sell would happen. Because anybody that bought it at like 165, 155, they're going to take profits at 250. That's a 100-point move. So I would be willing to take a short scalp there on the first test. But with it down here like this, it's not a rejection per se, but your sellers are trying to sell the weekly 200 EMA. Your sellers are shorting like 210 and up. Because you got a higher high on that day, and then you made a lower low, and this is a lower high. It's a higher day, higher low, or higher high prior to the last 2 days, but it's still just a lower high in comparison to that day. And they sold the open this morning. Look at that. Look at this. Your market opens, it wicks up into that level and then pounded. So it does look like the sellers are trying to get a rejection. Time will decide if they're right or wrong. So keep an eye on it. If it holds daily support today, it could be a long op tomorrow. If price confirms those deltas and breaks down and starts to trend, then I would not be long. I would wait for gap fill and then see what happens. And you're not going to get gap fill till you get to here. So hopefully it doesn't reject. It looks okay. If you put a candle in here and connected this gap, right? This would be a bull flag. There's your pole, and then, oh, sorry, that, I'm much better with the pen than with the mouse, but I got paperwork setting on my tablet. But you get what I'm saying. Here's your flag, right? And then, or there's your pole, and there's your flag. So it is sort of a bull flag. If they can hold support, which they're doing, then yeah, I'd be interested in a break above the 50. So today's extremely important for Coinbase. So I might keep coin on watch because I can trade Coinbase on weeks. I don't know if I can take a full-size position on it or not, but I'm going to keep it on watch because this is interesting. You've also got massive deltas down here, but the deltas are to the sell side. So your short traders are shorting it literally in this right here. Right here. This is where the majority of the shorts are. So what do you think happens to this thing if it gets up in here? What do you think happens to all these sellers? They get smoked. So yeah, it's interesting, but I would give it to the sellers. I just wouldn't take a position. I would just be patient and be a sniper and just watch this thing all day. And if it continues to chop like this all day long, and those deltas just keep trending lower, I would absolutely be looking for a long in here. To me, that would be worth the risk. But those things have to happen. So we're a long ways off from me getting long Coinbase today. I got long Bitcoin at the beginning of the stream. Took profits on that trade, so I'm good to go for today. But yeah, we bought this down here. Second trade. First trade I got long here before the stream. That got stopped out. My secondary long was here. So I made back the money on the first loss, plus more. Took profits. Now I'm just waiting to see what happens here. This is a big level of resistance. The 200 EMA is up here too. Big level of resistance here. We'll see what this thing does. But the 4 hour just started a new session here, so it can pull back as low as $70,500. If it can hold that, I'd be okay with holding my long. Obviously, if you start trending down below this, I would be very concerned that the remainder of that position is going to get stopped out. Because I took profits, my stop is setting right at my entry. So if it continues to trend lower, then what I'll lose will be the unrealized gains. I've already realized the majority of that. We'll see what it does, though. It looks okay for a breakout run. The 30-minute candles are all pretty much inside each other. So you just, if you're looking at the 1 minute, it's just a bunch of this. Right? If you're looking at the 1 minute, this is what you see on Bitcoin right now. It's crazy. The bunch of friggin' nasty sideways chop garbage. Yeah, the lows are going lower, to be fair. There's no way I'd put a trend line on a 1 minute chart or 1 minute candles, but I've seen people do it. You got some sort of like this thing going on here. The deltas look okay for upside continuation. I'm liking what I'm seeing here. So I wouldn't be, I don't like the idea of the short here with these deltas. With that being said, yeah, no, you do not see heavy sell side pressure coming in up here on these volume nodes. Yeah, I'm fine with holding this long. I see no reason to close it. None. I feel like it's going to break out. But the dollar has weakened a bit. So, I mean, the dollar has firmed up a bit. So that's what's putting pressure probably on Bitcoin here. We'll see what happens. The whole market's got the rest of the day to go, though. Squeeze them. says Pixel Property. I agree. Hey, I'm trading the 1 minute chart. Nothing wrong with that. Dude, I got the small time frame charts, bro. I can go down to the 1 second if you want. You know what I'm saying? We can go down. If you want to go down, we can go down. Obviously, the 1 second chart does not work that good. 10 second chart works pretty good. Yeah, I have no problem with looking at smaller time frame charts. I just don't do it anymore because I don't need to look at 1,000 candles to get the same info that 2 candles give me. That's all. That is all. That's why I look at the 4 hour, 8 hour, 30 minute. I very rarely ever go lower than a 30 minute anymore. I used to do the 15 minute was my favorite for doing like intraday scalps, but now I just 30 minutes as low as anybody needs to go. Because you're, like I said, this is the daily range right here. This block, this box, and right here's yesterday's day. So as long as price is up here, you know you're up at the high of day. Right? So even though for the last hour and a half, price has gone nowhere. Yeah. I mean, when you look at this, it still looks good. Right? It still looks okay. It's a big bullish engulfing, and it closed above the prior high. So it does feel like the buyers have got it now. Now we just need to see the rest of the day give us that upside continuation. But yesterday was so strong. Once I got stopped out on my short, because what we were doing yesterday, the trade that we were watching yesterday during the, because I do live stream every single day, Monday through Saturday's the only day I don't go live. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're live in the Discord community. We were looking right here for the short on Bitcoin yesterday during the stream, during this time frame. So right in here is where we were looking for the short, and as you can see, it didn't work. So once it broke out here, we allowed it to set the high. And then once it liquidated the high, you can see how this 30-minute candle is a trending candle. Well, I was going to replay it, but it doesn't matter. We'll just... So once this high was set, this candle closed, this candle opened, tested that low, went up, did this. When this candle put in that swing high, that fresh day high liquidation, we put the short on. Bam, right in here. So it did look good. It looked really, really good, and everything was going good. We had big volume building up here. We had the deltas were even heading back down. The deltas were not good yesterday, right? Not good. Why does it look like... Wait, what happened? Yesterday, when we got short, we had deltas traded down almost all the way to 0. So I'm kind of confused, right? No, that's later in the session. Oh, maybe that's what it was. It just wouldn't break down. Anyways, right in here is where we were watching it, looking for the breakdown. The deltas were even looking good for us. It just didn't break down. We were watching the 1 minute, I think. Anyways, ended up getting stopped out of it. So I closed it and said, screw it. Yeah, the bulls just had too much control. They were very, very strong yesterday. So I took a couple losses trying to scalp Bitcoin to the downside. We didn't have the bearish deltas. So that was against the short number 1. The higher lows all day was against the short number 2. There really wasn't a good reason to be shorting it, except for that it was potentially going to liquidate Saturday's high and roll over. That was it. That was all. But it didn't do that. So clearly the short didn't work out yesterday. And today you've got an upside continuation. So to take the short today, although it sounded good and it started to look good for the sellers, but clearly no bueno. No good. So that's that. These moves on the near term, the very small time frame charts, they will call, if you're an emotional trader, they will make you get even more emotional. And they will make you do things that you don't want to do or that you shouldn't do. What is going on? Yeah, I have no idea what just happened to this thing. This thing got all screwed up. Yeah. So imagine if you've been shorting Bitcoin all night long while I was asleep, right? You guys are out there trying to short every high, every single 1 minute swing high. When you get and you see this, you're going to jump in on a short. You're going to be like, bam, as soon as this candle shows itself. Because you're going to think to yourself, oh shit, it is a short and I'm missing it. I'm missing it. Then you get another one. So some of you miss that entry and you end up getting filled on a short down here. Like, stop doing that. If you're doing that still, stop doing that. It doesn't matter how big these 5 minute candles are. It has no bearing on future price direction. None. Now, if we were watching and we saw a bearish reaction like that at a weekly swing high or a monthly swing high, then we would jump in on it, right? Because it's at the level we're watching. We anticipate a rejection and yada, yada. But being on the inside of the day, like when this move happened, you weren't even at the daily high. You were at a nowhereville. You were at zero level. No levels that matter at all. But I guarantee you this forced a whole shitload of people into short positions. And I'm glad it did because I bought it right here and they allowed me to get out profitably. So, yeah, cool. Yeah, don't do that. Many times we've seen big candles amount to nothing. Absolute nothingness. It's just random chaos. Random market violence is the term I coined for it like 6 years ago, 5 years ago. That is absolute random market violence right there. Destroyed the early, like I said, I bought here. That destroyed that trade. Broke it right down in half. Bam! A to stop. But it's the longer time frames, the higher time frames that give you more of an idea as to what is actually happening, not the smaller time frame. So the whole time when that pullback was taking place, that's why it was so easy for me to put on a bullish position here, because this is just a retest of that. So if you're going to see continuation like this candle was, when it pulls back, you should be able to get long. You're above the VWAP, check. You're above the monthly VWAP, check. You're above the weekly VWAP, check. Are the bulls in control? Do they have momentum? Check. Yes. Higher high, higher low, higher high. Higher high, higher low. Yeah, that's a pullback. It's a higher high, but it's a higher low. Now, when you start making those lower lows on these high time frame charts, then you can say something. So here, that is a lower low. Yes, it's even a lower low than this candle's low. So this wick stopped out these 4-hour traders and those 4-hour traders that got long on the open. But you can still see what's going on. This is the daily open here. So when this wick pulls back, even though it did take out the prior two lows, it still did not do anything to this candle dominates the daily range. This one candle is 70% of your day's range at this point in time. This one move here. So by going one more candle, this is the 4 a.m. That's your London session. Well, you're 2 hours past the London session, but the next candle you get is the 8 a.m. open. That's your New York open. In order for this to be a rejection, you literally, if you short this wick, you literally need it to come all the way down to here. That's what you need to be right. Because when you're right on a short, you're looking for lower highs and lower lows. Lower highs, lower lows. Lower highs, lower lows. So when you're trying to short, when it's making higher highs and higher lows, you're on the wrong side of momentum. So you got to be very careful. It's better if you do it at a level for sure, a weekly level or a monthly level, but make sure you're not trying to enforce your bias. If you get stopped out, leave it alone. You're wrong. Don't push it, because this market will freaking humble you quickly. Very, very quickly. These are just much better candles to look at to see what the hell is going on. It's just so much better. I can look at this chart and I can see what the hell we've done for the last several weeks. Not just today, which is here. I can see what happened yesterday, which is here. So it's very strong yesterday and today. Very strong. Yesterday was a 5% rally. Today you're up almost 5% again. That's strong. On a normal vol day for Bitcoin, it moves about 1.5 to 1.7%. That's a normal vol day. Normal volatility. Around 2%. That's your entire day's range. You're up double that today. So would I be taking a long up here? I did here. But, you know, it was a risky long, right? It was super aggressive. Because at that point, Bitcoin had already moved 4%. So getting long right there, I need a 2% move. I would have needed a 5% day in order to make money on Bitcoin. So from now on, if you're a day trader, if you're learning or trying to learn how to day trade Bitcoin, and I'll wrap it up with this. How big is Bitcoin up? Go from the open, from when the candle opens. It doesn't matter what time it is for you. Just when the day opens. Because it opens at the same time every day. The daily range does. It's a 24/7 market. It never closes. So every day at the same time, you get a new day. From that point to the wherever you are in the range. If you're up like 1.5, 2% already, you're not trying to get long at 2%. Unless volatility is expanded. Right now, volatility is expanded. It's up huge. The VIX is up to $20, $28 yesterday. It was up $30 yesterday. Today it's at $22.96. So volatility is decreasing. As volatility decreases, so does the ranges on the day. The daily ranges, they decrease in size. And when the VIX gets back down under 15, which it will one day, eventually, Bitcoin will be back down to 1.2, 1.5, 1.75 day. So there's no point in looking for a long when the VIX is low on Bitcoin. If it's already up, 1.5%, you've pretty much already ran the course of what the day can even do. Probabilistically, The probabilities are so far against you looking for a long up there. They are also against you, unfortunately, if you're looking for the short up there. And the simple reason is because if the bulls have momentum, that momentum can carry the day on through. So generally speaking, you want to look for trades when you're early in the range. Right? Early, low, at the open, around the open. You want to be near like 0.10 or 0.50, or it can be red and be 0.25 or 0.50. Those are decent places to look for longs because at least it gives you the probabilistic edge of knowing you can get another 1% move or a 1.5% move, right? Just by knowing that info, that puts the probabilities more on your side at least. At least then you will be looking for better positioning. Well, if I'm looking for a 2% move, because we need a percentage move in order to make money on a directionally biased position. So if I'm taking a long on spot, I literally need Bitcoin to move a couple percent before I can even take profits. This is why we trade other assets that are more volatile, that have bigger ranges. So that way we can get in and get out quicker and still keep the probabilities on our side. But these are things you need to know as a trader. You need to be operating inside of the probability curve. Probabilities are all we have as traders. So like obviously if Bitcoin's up 4% or 5%, I am definitely not trying to get long. Just like when people ask me to look at their favorite assets, and it doesn't make them dumb or anything. It just makes them unaware. They're just unaware of what's actually taking place. If your asset is up 2,000% and got there in the last 3 weeks, you probably do not want to buy that. Oil was up 20% alone when the market opened on Sunday. You think I want to be a buyer? Oil usually moves about 0.5% a day. It's up 20? No, I'm not buying oil. Are you out your mind? Yeah. Learn these things. Stay inside the probability. If you were looking at it like a distribution curve or a bell curve, right? You want to operate in here. In here. This is where your money is. Once you get out here, that's like a 0.0003% chance of making money on the edge. I would take this trade with you every single day for the rest of my life. And I would give you the option of the direction every single day. Every day for the rest of my life. I would take the opposite trade of you. I would fill you. And you get pick on direction. Do you see why it's easy for, smarter people to make money? It's not that they're smarter than you, they just know more than you. That's it. You can learn this stuff and apply it. But yeah, if you're way out there on the risk graph, I'm always going to take that trade because I will make money. Probabilistics, all of it. I'll make it. I'll make so much money. You're very seldom ever going to make money operating on the way outside fringes of the probability curve. Very, very few times. Unfortunately, as retail clients or retail traders, we only remember those crazy trades that we made a shitload of money on that was literally a 0.4% chance of working out. And we think we can do that every single day. And we can't. It will not make money long term. So trying to pick like very high trades looking for a short or very low trades looking for a buy, you are literally way out on the distribution curve and you're operating way out there consistently, you're putting the probabilities against you right off the bat. Like, you have no chance of being profitable if you're trading like that. But I'm trying to help. I'm trying to teach you guys what to look for, at least to get your entries at least into where consistently you'll be able to make money. When we operate, we know the market. These are facts, guys. They are facts. We know for a fact the market trades inside of this 68% of the time. Right? 68% of the time. Knowing that means over time, if you are putting your trades in here, you will have a high chance of getting a 50% hit rate. If you are very selective and you know, this and that, you're putting the probabilities on your side. You're not going to win every trade, but if you can just get to a 50% hit rate and operate in the 68%, you are going to make money long term. It works out with time. Time is your friend. This is the Holy Grail. Risk mitigation. It is the Holy Grail to trading. And then once you know how to mitigate risk properly and you're operating in here properly, just doing those two things has now put your chances of being real good, of making money in the future, long term, because you're going to take a trade today, tomorrow, the next day, the day after. Long term, you're going to get those that hit rate is going to get better. And once that hit rate gets better, then your money just shows up. Because several of my trades are 3-to-1 risk to rewards. Like most of them. When I take this trade on Bitcoin this morning here, I lost $30. I got long right there. So when it fell, I lost $30. Then I put on the next trade where I'm taking it here based off that 8-hour wick. That prior 8-hour wick. I made 300 to the upside. So 300 minus 30 equals. That's my day. Is it life-changing money? No. But if I do that day in, day out, it becomes life-changing money after about 15 years. And also, you don't have to keep it that way. I keep it that way because the amount of money that I make is useless. It doesn't matter. It's the process. That's what you learn. When you learn that process, you put the probabilities on your side, and then time is what pays you. Time. Trying to get rich now, nope. It's the time and the hit rate and the good trades. Boom. Time is how you make money. We all know this. Retail tries to do the exact opposite. Make as much as I can, as quick as I can, way out here. We're going to take that every time. All right. So keeping that, knowing that stuff, let's make money long term. Nvidia did break out. It hasn't tagged February as open yet. I'm not going to do anything while Nvidia is in here. It can puke down to 0 tomorrow. I don't care. Right? I need to see what it does at February is open, if it can get up there. It does look like a lot of people are trying to short Nvidia today. But the VIX is on day lows. It's making fresh day lows, which means Nvidia, S&P, they're all making fresh day highs. chances are Nvidia breaks out of this today and tests the February open. That's the level everybody's watching. This level I'm watching, this is the level most people are watching, right? We want to see what Nvidia can do right freaking here. Because if it can fail right freaking here, we're going to short it. But if it can't, we're not going to. Because we could be on the wrong side of the market. Because this thing is clearly range bound. Right? Very range bound. So this is the only place I'm interested in a short. The yearly opening range has done nothing. Not really. It did early on in the year. It gave us one really good trade right here. When it lost it, we were able to jump in it there. So we made a little bit of money here, but then the buyers just showed right back up again. But you can see how it really has been chopping. Well, that was a good one. That would have been a good one. Right in here, it was very choppy. Very choppy. So I don't even know that I would short a retest of that because it hasn't been a good place pretty much all year. So I can only operate at February's open. Or, I mean, if you get back above the yearly opening range, I probably wouldn't even no longer have a bearish bias on it. So we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, I don't like that it's breaking back out to the upside. Tesla is too, but Tesla is still acting like there's inherent weakness in here. So we're going to keep watching Tesla, Nvidia, Bitcoin, obviously, and a few other things. But I'll see you guys again on Thursday. So make sure you got, let me read this real quick. Come on, 60K, maybe, yeah. You say best Bitcoin price action analysis. It is. It is, baby. It is. The reason you are good is then some of your trades make you a lot. You hold them for a long time. No, I very seldom hold them for a long time. You're seeing a lot of what I've already been, like what I've already done. Okay, like for instance, the silver trade, the most money I made on it, it happened in 2 days. So for the entire 4 days that I sat in that open position, it never made any more money. Not even a dime. That got stopped out. But it was the taking profits on the first one and then taking profits again on the second one. That's where the money came from. That's where the money was made. The holding it while it was range bound didn't make money. Right? When you see me take a trade and it makes a lot more money than say it usually does, it's because I got in it at a better place and it went a lot farther than I anticipated it going. When I'm scalping on my normal accounts, I'm not trading with a very small amount of money. That's why, like on the Forex account, I'm trading a $120 account. In the crypto account, I'm trading a $15,000 account. Like that's not big, that's small. So the risk and the take profits and all that's going to be, right in line with that. Large account though, a $1,000 victory on a trade is nothing. Right? It's not that much. So don't pay attention to dollar amounts if you're looking at my trades. The dollar amounts they're irrelevant. What I want you to focus on is the entry and why the entry worked. And even then, that kind of doesn't even matter because it isn't always going to work. Even if you put the same trade on every day, you're only going to get about a 50% hit rate at best. It's just the process of managing risk and slowly, being very, very, just mitigating risk. It's literally the holy grail. All right, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure you guys trade safe, trade smart, and as always, happy trading.